Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast, your show for news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on cagematch.net. I am your host, Striga, and he is Dylan. Hello.
Striga, you are opening the show this week. I mean, I passed the ball back to you. I'm feeling like Yuki Kawamura right now. I hit you with a big pass in the fourth quarter because that's the only time I play is in clutch time right now. But that's okay. Memphis Grizzlies superstar player Yuki Kawamura, by the way, the most popular NBA player in Japan, plays for the Memphis Grizzlies, and we all love him. Even other teams love him, Striga. When he scores, even like an opposing crowds will stand up and cheer for him, even though he's not on their team. He scored on their team, and they like us better because he's on it.
Oh.
That's how I'm feeling right now. I've got my Yuki game strong. I draw about as good as he does. But, he's a great, not so great artist. But, man, so hyped about everything going on right now with the Grizzlies, of course, obviously. But most importantly, this is our show, Striga. This is the awards episode, the biggest episode of the year every year. We had a little bit of a delay this year, but we're still coming home strong. You cannot rush greatness. And who can rush your brilliance, Striga? You took it to the 11th hour to decide your picks on the awards.
Actually, to almost the 12th hour.
Almost the 12th hour. And to be fair, we do not have the final votes counted yet, adding in our votes. So it's possible. There were a couple of awards that are so close we could influence them. That's how close. These are one of the most hard-fought awards years that we've had for not just one award, but multiple awards came in really close. There was a couple that were blowouts, and we'll get to that. But I think first and foremost, I do want to send a very heartfelt and genuine thank you to all the people who voted in the Eastern Lariat Awards. The ELAs are back again. It's something that means a lot every year. That was kind of one of my goals when we, a couple of years back when we started to name the awards. I wanted these awards to be on the level of a top tier, community awards, because, everybody always brings up the Observer Awards, and, there's the Voice of Wrestling top 10 matches of the year, which, we've all voted on in the past. But I think our awards should be up there with that, specifically for Japanese pro wrestling. You look at the Tokyo Sports as the other major award for wrestling, but because of us and our listeners and a lot of great knowledgeable people, once again, and like I said, there's some stuff that I disagree with. We'll talk about, but I really respect the knowledge base that we came in. If you look at our awards, I counted them, Striga. 19 different Japanese wrestling promotions got votes on our awards. But 13 of them were for Promotion of the Year. But even there were some that weren't in Promotion of the Year awards, but they represented other companies. That's how deep not just our awards, but our listener base and our voter base goes, and the knowledge that they bring to the table. So once again, you guys killed it as always. We really, really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely appreciate everybody that voted here for these awards. It's so great to see all these different people from different walks of life just tell us who they think is the best in being a rookie, in being improved, in being the best wrestler. It's always such a great way to just find out what the community thinks about pro wrestling in Japan. And to our community, Dylan, quickly before we go to the awards, I want to address the last show we did, because at the beginning of the last show, we actually said we were going to address the situation with Chris Charlton on Dynasty.
I got comments about this as well, separately, so I'm glad you brought this up.
And we did not, in the end, do that. We also got a comment on that on our Twitter from the user at DudeBroNews, and he was disappointed about that because we didn't bring that up in the end, which I can understand. We did not talk about it. So, Dylan,
that was a miss.
Yeah, that was a miss, and I talked about it with Flosh on Straight Wrestling on my German show. And what I said is that, of course, he should not have said what he said. And the thing about him in his commentary, I don't know him as a person. I don't know Chris Charlton as a person. I did a show once with him, but that's not knowing someone as a person. But what I know from his commentary is that in some cases, he just has issues of letting something go. And in that instance, on that show, he apparently had some issues of letting that thing go that he wanted to push into his commentary, into his, I don't know, gimmick as a New Japan announcer. And it led to the point that he was on commentary with one of the people that AEW sent over to represent AEW that has direct ties with New Japan Pro Wrestling in Rocky Romero. And you could hear in Rocky Romero's voice, in the tone of his voice, how angry he was about what Chris Charlton said in that moment. And that is something he should not have done. The bad part about it right now is, of course, for him that he's off commentary. And, of course, also for fans right now that the first part of the New Beginning tour is now without English commentary. That is unfortunate. But I get what the company did because he should not have done that.
I really think when I listen to it, and I do want to say first, I really take the majority of the blame for that. And I do apologize for not getting into that because you were in Japan yourself live, you know. So obviously watching the shows and listening to commentary might not have been number one on your agenda at the time.
No, it was not.
And I actually wanted to bring it up, but we just talked about so much stuff that it kind of slipped through our fingers. But that's my fault, and I am sorry. My bad on that one. So I'm glad we're talking about it now, to be honest. I was going to bring it up to you after the show to do something a little extra, but we're going to do it right now. You're 2 steps ahead of me right now.
Oh, look at that.
So when I listen to it, I think, again, and I don't want to speak for people here, like other people or anything, I really feel like in his mind, he was like fully working. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't saying this as like some rogue, you know, like he wasn't shooting or like trying to get fired or anything. I think in his mind, it wasn't that dissimilar from the situation with New Japan and Noah. If you remember the commentary that he produced then was very critical of the other company. I think where he really went sideways was when he started talking about Tony personally, when he started to call him a money mark and things like that. I think if he had said 80% of what he said and left that parts out, he might have been able to get by with it, you know. But he was like, no, like I'm going, like you said, the other two were trying to calm him down, Walker and Rocky, and they were like, nah, come on, don't do that. Like, you know, don't say that. Come on.
Yeah.
And all this. But he wasn't feeling it. Even by the end of the night, though, he's trying to walk it back a little bit. He was like, yeah, Omega is one of the greatest.
And at that point of the show, you knew something was wrong and off here.
Yeah, but I really don't think that he was trying to, like, again, go rogue or anything. Like, he wasn't saying something from his heart. He was trying to engage in the story that he had created because there wasn't any real rivalry build to this show ultimately.
Yep.
And that's something that Kidani had said in his comments after the show when he was really.
But you know, maybe at that point when there is no rivalry build, you as an announcer don't go into business for yourself to create one.
Exactly. Like, that's where he went wrong. Like, is that he really went off his own and did this, and I think that's what really bit him in the end. And I think he could have gotten away with it if he had toned down a lot of the personal stuff at Tony Khan. But besides that, though, I really agree with you. He shouldn't have done this. So, like, long story short, we could try to explain what he was thinking, or we could guess what he was thinking. At the end of the day, he just shouldn't have done it that way. And that's why the other commentary, you know, Rocky and Walker, they did fine commentating these matches. But like you said, he just was really on board with this thing. Like I said, it feels like it was in his mind more than anything. But yeah, I really don't blame the company at all, actually, for doing what they did.
No.
You know, and again, I don't. It's not like I'm saying like, oh, Charlton should be fired forever.
No. That's not what we're saying either. But
their response was not wrong.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and they needed to do something, especially if it did. I mean, there's been really two sets of stories that have come out publicly. Like in one, Tony Khan pushed for this. I know Super J-Cast said that they triple sourced that it was him that pushed for this. And then Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp's version is that Kidani was the one that did it.
Well, obviously, someone high in either company did it.
It may have been both of them.
Yeah.
They mutually agreed that we must, Tony Khan might have called Kidani up and said, "Can you believe this?" And then he's like, "Don't worry, I've already got it. Like I already submitted them." Because that is something you just don't.
So either president took credit for it.
Well, nobody's taking credit for it. That's just the rumor going around. It's like some people say that it was Kidani and some people say it's Tony Khan.
Tell the dirt sheets I did it.
Yeah, like I mean, who knows? Like I mean, we don't know who these sources are. Obviously, I mean, if it was me, like I mean, I personally think Tony Khan probably heard this and didn't like what was said based on his history. I mean, we saw it not that long ago. Look at what happened with GCW and Effie, where he talked mad trash on Tony Khan again, calling him a money mark. And he doesn't want to hear that crap, clearly, overall. So, and I don't, it's not like I'm sitting here blaming him for it. I know a lot of people will, they always want to target Khan and AEW and all of that. Mm-hmm. But I think you have to be a little bit fair about it, is that this was not planned. Again, if Charlton had discussed this with some people and we had known about it, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad at all.
And, we just, at the last show we did, we also talked about Hiroshi Tanahashi and Katsuyori Shibata. Yep. And what happened to Shibata when he didn't go according to the plan? They didn't use him anymore for a long time, right? This was the first time that Shibata was brought back for Wrestle Kingdom now, for Wrestle Dynasty.
Yep. Yeah, and we presume that was very heavily wrapped up in Tanahashi himself wanting that. Yeah. But Charlton, I think he's been there for a while now. They made it clear that it's not a permanent thing. He's just gone for 2 months. Mm-hmm. And he does wear a lot of hats for that company from the English-speaking side of things. So, I mean, I'm not saying anything about it, but I will say I don't blame New Japan or Kidani or the company at all for this particular situation. There are certain things Kidani said lately that I do blame him for about Stardom wrestlers that he was really stupid about. I do have to say. But in this situation, I really don't blame them at all. I think they did pretty much, they handled it about as best as it all could have, whether it was Tony's idea or Kidani. I think this is about the best outcome for something, like you said, that was wholly avoidable and shouldn't have happened how it did.
Exactly. So, good, we addressed that now. And I hope that people who call us out on it, I mean, we talked about it right now. And
I really don't blame the people.
No, I don't blame them.
Like, we should have talked about it.
Exactly. I don't blame them either. So you should actually call us out, because when we say we talk about stuff, we don't do that. Just let us know.
Yeah, it was not on purpose, but it was a mistake. And again, I do apologize for that. Like I said, I take the heat more than Stringer on this particular subject. But we definitely should have. And now we've righted that wrong. And again, like anytime, it's something we talked a little bit about, or I talked a little bit about on the YouTube show upload for the show, because we had a little talk about that, me and some of the viewers on there, and I kind of spoke on it a little there. But I'm glad that we could put this out for everybody. And like I said, right, something that we missed on, as you said.
Yep. So that now brings us, Dylan, to the year-end awards 2024. And last year, we decided to push back the year-end awards to January to allow everybody to just check what happened at the end of December, because sometimes there are matches that air that late that you can't include them into the year-end awards, And that always is an issue with these. And so I really like that we pushed them back to January. And I don't even think it's a problem necessarily to have it that late, because, like you said, the Voices of Wrestling Awards, they also closed down at the end of January to allow everybody to check what happened in December, sometimes to check back on stuff that happened early in the year maybe. And so lots of the votes actually came in late for this. So did mine. I only did mine a couple of hours before we started the recording here. And Dylan, what categories do we have for the Eastern Lariat year-end awards?
We have a variety of categories. That's one of the best parts of these shows, is that we have a lot of, pretty much every topic that we could have are covered, I would say here. The first thing we look at is the Stan Hansen Award. That's named for the best foreigner in Japan. For a non-Japanese talent to come in. What they did in the year 2024 is what we're covering. Of course, we got a lot of different votes for that, and we will get into those. The Akiyama Award, which is the best rookie, and we state it right there. We have this very concise thing. Some other awards, they'll say Rookie of the Year, and nobody knows what the hell that means.
Yeah.
We had one vote, which was very questionable. Someone who debuted over 5 years ago on there. But we literally stated right in the award ballot, must have debuted past January 1st, 2023 or later. So it's like a 2-year gap pretty much. Like it's like a best of the year, except we add an extra year on it because sometimes the rookies need that extra thing in Japan, extra year to grow, to be seasoned. Overall, you get the most improved, where they started out at heading into 2024, where they ended up, who really showed growth in their game as a wrestler, and we will talk about that for sure. Best promotion, the best promotion. There's nothing more I can say about that. Yes. Overall, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Show of the one of those awards is same with show or match of the year or best promotion, where we just don't have a specific name to it because it just wouldn't make a lot of sense actually.
No.
Like the Wrestle Kingdom Award of the year.
Yeah, the Wrestle Kingdom Show of the Year award. The New Japan Best Promotion. Yeah. That would be stupid. So we did have some self-control on these names. By the way, I do want to shout out the people also helped in that too. We had votes to name the awards, and then that's where we came from. We didn't just pull these names out of our ass. We had a good system to determine it. This is the ultimate freedom of speech zone you're in right now in the Eastern Lariat. The people are a part of it. It's not just me and you. Everybody is involved with these awards, from the name to the people, and we really that's another thing which I think makes our awards the best. When you look at the process of it, I don't think any other one has as good of a one as we have.
And it's just the variety. Like you mentioned, there is 19 promotions that is mentioned from all corners of Japanese pro wrestling, literally.
Yeah, literally all corners, for sure. Yeah, but like you mentioned, Show of the Year, Best Bout, again, very normal awards to have any wrestling awards, and we will get to that. The Kawada Taue Best Tag Team Award, obviously named after Toshiaki Kawada and Akira Taue. Legendary tag team in All Japan. And that's obviously determining the best tag team. And the people kind of chose that how they did, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. That's one of those free-flowing ones, where you can kind of measure it how you want to, what's most important to you in a tag team. We saw that. We saw different kinds of tag teams being nominated, fight for the awards there. The Jushin Liger Award, that's for the best junior heavyweight worker. A category for the juniors. I think it's very good that they get acknowledged in Japan, and I have a little bit of interesting tangent when I looked at these votes, and a lot of the comments people made when they voted about this award. I'm going to get to that when we get to that. The Tanahashi Trophy. What great timing! The man himself retiring in a year.
Yes.
It's only going to become more prevalent as years go
by.
More
prestigious. Yeah,
exactly, and that is for purely the best in-ring worker. This isn't about, there's no rules in terms of gender or anything like that, or what company you're in. It's purely about the best wrestler in the ring of the year there. Best moment, and that's one that has a ton of people participated in that, and it's just for the best actual moment of the year, for that happened in wrestling. It's not a match. I mean, it can be a move or a win or a big win or something like that. But it could be an emotional segment. It could be a real life segment. It could be something crazy, unexpected. It could be great storytelling drama, whatever you want to choose. And again, very free flowing. You choose what's most important to you for that. The Toyota Trophy, which is the Joshi MVP award. This is specifically for the Joshi wrestlers. And this, much like and Kobashi MVP, the same way. They both are the same categories where it's not just in-ring, you have business metrics, how important you are to the company. That's kind of our big overall thing. That's, it's like an unwritten rule. who would lose the most if so and so retired on January
Yes.
1st? Like
Yes,
like
yes.
how would that affect the company most? Both the Joshi MVP and the Kobashi MVP utilize that way of judging it, and also it's very cool that this year for Kobashi MVP that everybody knew that the women were also eligible for that as well. Because
Yes, we finally got so many votes. In years prior to that,
yeah.
it was very hesitant. But now people are aware of that, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, exactly. That was the growth of the awards, and maybe we just did better advertising it on the ballot. I don't know, but one way or the other, we really figured out. We got there to where multiple women were voted for, and that's very important as well. So all of these awards, I think you can't have a more prestigious line of awards already, and it's only become better again thanks to the amount of variety that we've had, as we both mentioned.
Absolutely. So great rundown on your part, Dylan. Why don't we just get right into it with first, we going to start like we always start with the Stan Hansen Award for the best foreigner. And I'm looking at the votes that we got for that. And I mean, it is very obvious that Zack Sabre Jr. is the one that completely ran away with it in comparison to everybody else. Zack Sabre Jr. got the vast majority of the votes. He's followed by Chris Brooks, who is doing great work in DDT. I've said it on the last show we did. He's immensely popular in DDT. He is their top champion for a second time. He is main eventing a lot of shows, has his own group in DDT. He just made it work for him. One of those people that really bet on themselves in really a crucial time in pro wrestling, where in England NXT UK was a thing and people attached to that, and he said, "Nope, I'm going to Japan. My dream is to go to Japan, live there, wrestle there," and he did. He did, and he made it work for him, and that is something that can't be understated. And we have a shared third place here with Gabe Kidd and El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., who just left Japan and left pro wrestling. Noah, Gabe Kidd, still going strong, obviously. If we had counted in January 5, Dylan, I think Gabe Kidd would have gotten more votes, and I'm certain that he will get more votes in 2025.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on that?
This wasn't surprising to me. How it played out with Zach getting the vast majority of the votes. At this point, it's going to be very hard. I mean, look at what he did at Tokyo Sports. They really ran with him as, one of the top stars of Japanese wrestling. The company itself did everything they could. And I mean, he had a really good year of wrestling, overall. When you look at Zach's year, just match quality wise.
Great matches, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Even everyone will point to the big ones, but he had some under the radar ones. Look at that Sato match. He had a Despy Invitational.
Yes.
He had some under the radar matches.
The tag matches with Chris Brooks and the tag match with Chris Brooks and DDT too.
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah. Brooks. But Zach, I figured would win. To be honest, it's not anything I would argue at all. Brooks, I feel like he's an interesting guy. I definitely think there were years where he really deserved it. This year and a lot of his years, I feel like it's kind of like he's got two switches. Like he's got one version of himself when he's going for the title or in that tag match with Zach or he's in Baka Gaijin, something that really captures his heart as a person, as a wrestler. And then there's the ones where he's not really doing that much that's that important. And I think that we got too much of the second switch like this year for me to really go for it. But when it was his turn to do something, he stepped up pretty much every time. I will say that.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, I love that he's doing the Baka Gaijin stuff. I talked about that with him briefly when I was in Japan. It's something that is very near and dear to him, doing that. Yeah, like I said, he's very important to DTC, but I don't have him in my top 3 either this time. I will also go with Zack Sabre Jr. on top of the Stan Hansen Award. Just, you said it. He has the match quality. He has, You can just look at it. You also can look at his G1 victory, winning the IWGP Heavyweight Championship as a foreigner. That's also just very, very big, very important.
Not to jump on you, like I said, I'd like to do it where we announce our winners separately, and then we can go through the top 3 and all that, because I think it's more interesting than in case you say who I thought was number 1, because we'll just jump on each other then. Was my number 1 on your list?
Did you say what your number 1?
Oh, my pick for the winner would be I went with. See, here's the thing: how you approach this award, because you talked about a bunch of his accomplishments, and I don't think my winner has as many as he did. But I think in terms of in-ring and overall, I actually think in terms of purely a foreigner and the whole year, because I think that Zach's title reign can be graded with a negative lens so far, and his push overall, it hasn't really taken as much. I think Finlay actually did more for the company, and yeah.
No, just continue, but yeah.
And I just think his match quality, I thought by the end of the year, the second half of the year, whether it was the G1, whether it was the matches with Yoshihashi, Goto, and all the rest, even Taichi, like, he was the most consistent worker in New Japan to me. Like, I would say, like, in terms of pure consistency, I think he did more, and I really enjoyed his push more consistently than I did Zach, which I think has some holes in it if you look at the grand scheme of things. So I went with Finlay as my number 1.
That is actually where I was going at.
And that's why I wanted to jump ahead, because I figured he would be on there, and I think it's better if we say the winner. The winners are what really stand out.
Yes,
but we have other people.
But Finlay is my number 2.
Yeah.
I went back and forth between Finlay and Zack Sabre Jr., and what ultimately made the cut for me is that Zack Sabre Jr. had the more high-quality matches that I can call back to, while the quality overall of David Finlay's matches, he was very consistent in this year. But I also feel that consistency is also a very huge part of Zack Sabre Jr.'s game. So he's slightly at the edge for me here. It's not a huge edge, not like the awards and the votes show. It's a slight edge, even. And you can also go to the accomplishments, right? Zack Sabre Jr. was the world champion. David Finlay won their secondary belt, their global title. Also accomplishments. So great year for Finlay, and I think that he has good chances for 2025 to accomplish more than that.
Absolutely.
My number 3 is Flamita from Dragon Gate. He was an instant shot in the arm when he came into Dragon Gate, came into Natural Vibes, won the tag team title with Casey, helped out Natural Vibes tremendously, had some really, really cool matches on the cards with the likes of Jason Lee, with the likes of Minorita when he was still that character, and Ben K. It's so crazy to think about Flamita. When I first saw him, I think it was in 2013, 2012, around that time. And I was so stunned to learn that the guy is still only 30 years old. So he has the best time of his career still ahead of him. And I am really hopeful that he will return to Dragon Gate, because he's a great fit for the company.
Yeah, I remember when he came in, Octagon Jr. in AAA.
Wow, yes. Oh.
He was still a kid then, so it doesn't surprise me that he's still very young. I really think he's at the peak of his run, though. The thing is, the only thing against him is that he wasn't here that long. Like, if he were around for a full year, like, I think I would probably have voted for him.
64 matches overall.
Which is a good run, for sure. Like, they got the most out of they could for him while he was here, but I just think the others had more longevity. But in terms of performance, like, he's right up there. He was sensational for when he was in Dragon Gate. I thought this is by far the best of his career, because I watched him again when he was young. When he was in his Flamita era earlier on. I remember when he changed his name to Fireball. I remember when he was in Glate, coming in there, Demonic Flamita.
Demonic Flamita, yeah, it was his Ring of Honor gimmick, actually.
Yeah, and but he's a lot better now than he was then. So I think he's a wonderful person to shout out.
Yeah, So that is what we have when I'm looking at the votes here. We also, of course, have Bozilla. We have Lois Mantin mentioned, Cyrus, Jack Morris. Someone even mentioned Nick Nemeth.
That was a real vote. I didn't make that up.
Why?
I'm not going to question. Well, I am going to question. Why? That's a great question that you asked. That deserves to be asked.
Akari was mentioned. And Tavian Hates. I think that's something that's forgotten because he actually had a very good run in the N1 victory.
I thought that was a great sleeper vote. I love that they put it in there. I think a lot of times because I think a lot of people knew Zach was going to get it. So you kind of had to pick, see who else you could look at to do something a little different. And I thought he was a great pick. Akari, well-deserved, in my opinion. I think she's a really great part of Pure J. She's worked really tremendously hard to get better ever since she's got into Japan. She's someone that I always kind of figure she's always like hanging around in my top 3, top 5 level for me. So I would put her up there. I wouldn't say she won, but I think she deserves a mention for sure. And keeping the flame of Pure J growing as well deserves a lot of praise.
And there's lots of foreigners hustling around in Japan right now. I mean, when you just look at how Hartley Jackson is coming around now, even working for New Japan Pro Wrestling, that man has accomplished a lot throughout his career. He's teaming with Jack Kennedy. I really love the name of the team with Jackie and Jackson. Jack Kennedy also someone that started out in Japan just working for real micro indie promotions and now having a gig with All Japan Pro Wrestling. Very respected right now. And Gaia Hawks I mentioned in the half-year awards as well. He's also doing well for himself. So there's lots of people that you can go back to.
Kyushu Pro, always the gateway.
Yes, yes, always.
But yeah, I think Kid had a great year too. I agree with what you said. That this year it may very well end up being his year. And like you said, if it had lasted for another week, he would have gotten some more votes. So I would put him up there too. But again, no arguments with Zach. I think he's a deserving winner overall, and I think that it played out exactly as we thought it would.
Yeah. All right, Dylan. Then take the next one, please.
The Akiyama Award, our closest award. This is technically still in play, depending on how this goes here. And I will say this: there's something that I think needs to be rectified right now, and it may not even need this. I don't want to spoil it or anything, but if there was a tie on the awards, would we take it to the poll option? Like,
I think we would.
I think that's the best thing. I mean, especially for the half year, I think a double winner would be fine. But for the year end, I really would want a true number one winner, in my opinion. If this did go to a tie, maybe it won't. Again, we're not deciding it. Maybe we'll put that to a poll as well. We're going to ask if we should go to the poll or not go to the poll. We will do it on a poll to determine it. But this impromptu poll has to come to an end with the Akiyama Award determining the best rookie. Right now, as the ballot goes, there are 2 people ahead, and I will announce that right now my winner ties it because I voted for Chi-Chi as the Akiyama Award winner, which is why I brought this up because I knew we would head into a tie here. I'll just run down where we're at right now with the people who got more than 1 vote, and we will let you see what you can do. And you don't have to vote for either of these people. You can vote for whoever you want, and we will take it to the poll to determine if it comes to that. But right now, Oleg Bolton and Chi-Chi are tied. 2 completely opposite styles of wrestlers, I would argue, but great in their own right. Ryoya Tanaka came in 3rd at 7. We had a tie with Victoria Yuzuki from Marigold, Oka Sasaki from Noah, Homari from Dragon Gate. I mean, this has to be a big, just getting this much support and this many votes has to be a win for him because he just debuted 4 months ago. He's on that Onsai level where he stepped up right away and people were going crazy. Daiki Nagai, another one. Odashima, another one. Like guys that debuted later in the year but made big splashes there. And I think this like 2025 Rookie of the Year is going to be crazy. Taishin Nagao, we both love him. Shino Suzuki from Tokyo Joshi Pro, Sayaka Karara from Stardom, Yu Owada from Noah, and Rana Yagami from Stardom as well. All got more than one vote. And I do want to shout out among the one vote getters. Someone voted for Yurika Oka, who debuted in 2019. Now listen, we're going to talk about her with Improved. And yes, maybe you thought that she had a rebirth in her career, but she did debut. It was 2023. We said was a debut on there. I just want to point that out. I'm not
someone that debuted before COVID-19 can't be the Rookie of the Year, because the time before COVID-19 was literally like 20 years ago, it feels like.
It does. But hey, I love it, though. I'm not trying to... I respect the hustle of trying to get any award you can get. Listen, we had somebody respond to us, Dan Tamura, for every award. Okay? I respect that hustle. Hell no, I saw his ballot, and it was not Dan Tamura for every award. So I'm questioning that right now. You told us on Twitter that he would get every award.
Did Dan Tamura win the Dan Tamura Award?
I think that's what we'll be introducing along with the Nadai Takahashi Award. Yes, every year. I think I did. That was a bit on Twitter I did for like 5 years. Like it was like Nadai Takahashi gets all the awards. Tag team, best wrestler, best junior, all of them go to Nadai.
But she would have a case this year in some cases. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think she deserved more votes for certain awards. But regardless, who is your number one? Will we go to the poll?
So, Dylan, for the sake of us doing a poll and something unprecedented, I will actually not vote for either Bolek Alton or Chi-Chi.
Okay.
Because like the top three that I have, I also went back and forth in positioning them, so it doesn't really make a difference for me who I put in there, because I have cases for all three of them. And the top three are Chi-Chi and Bolton Oleg on number 2 and number 3. I think that Chi-Chi is an incredible professional wrestler, and just being... I was shocked to find out that she only debuted in 2023. I actually had not thought about that. It's crazy to see where she has gotten already and how good she has gotten already and even how she makes the gimmick work,
right,
while being just that badass of a wrestler. It's crazy. It's great. Oleg had a great run in the G1. Great debut run in there, as still perceived as a rookie, but getting some wins there too, having very good matches in his range in 10 minutes or so. Good stuff there. The one I'm voting for though now is Homare from Dragon Gate. The impact that he had right upon his debut was unmatched to anything that I had seen in a long time. And when you look at him right now, I just watched Gate of Bayside earlier this morning. He just fits in like he has been there for years and years and years. He's doing these multi-man matches like he has never done anything else. He's doing this Zebrats gimmick like he has never done anything else. He is just that good and deserves a lot of praise, in my opinion.
He is. I think that, when he showed up with that first match he had, and then even before the turn after the match, I was like, okay, this is a generational level talent.
This is the dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is going to be the top star of this company.
Sometimes you just see that. You look at the professional wrestler. That's what when I first saw Fuminori Abe, I thought, okay, that dude is special.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just you just have that perception of a wrestler, and they will just run with it. They will just be that great.
Yeah, I totally agree with that pick overall. My only caveat would be that he will also be eligible for this 2025 Rookie of the Year as well when we move ahead. So he could still win, even though he did win this year.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we'll move it up a year. 2024, January 1st, 2024 would be next year's award,
sure.
Right? So he could win. He could still win.
Yuma Anzai just barely dropped out of being eligible for this one.
That's another thing. Okay, before we get to the other awards, here's a little talking point I wanted to throw you here. Because we ran down the Rookie Award this year, and you see them listed right in front of you.
Yes.
Let's go compare this year's class to last year's class of Akiyama Award vote getters, because I have that in front of me right now.
Okay, I don't have that in front of me actually, but if you do,
I will run.
Okay.
I will run it down briefly, and it would be better for the listeners. It's if I write it down.
Yes.
So last year Onsai run in a complete landslide.
Sure.
Here,
Yeah.
as we know, and like you said, he still could. Like he was narrowly out this year.
Debuted in
Onsai,
September of 2022, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Like, how close was that he could have been eligible? That should be an unofficial rule. If somebody wins the rookie award their first year, they can't win it again the second year. We're gonna put that in. I mean, it won't be a problem with either one of these people.
I listened to your show that you did, the Dream Dragons show, and you talked about the Rookie Cup they have, the Generations Cup.
Yeah.
And it should really be the rule that when you win the cup once, you can't be in the cup again.
See, I'm consistent, people. Whether it's in DDT or my own show, like we have to keep the rules consistent. Okay, but let's run down this class. We got Onsai, Kazuna Tanaka. Oleg was still there last year. He got some votes last year. Bold Oleg. Takeshi Masada, Wakana Uehara, Azusa Inaba, Kaito Nagano. We miss you. Oscar Loibe. He'll be back.
He will be back.
Kosei was still there. Kosei Fujita. Miya Yotsuba, like indie Joshi worker. Mochizuki Jr. Eligible, still there. Ryoya Tanaka, eligible there. Rana, Himawari, Toga, Zones, and Mifu Ashida. How do you think these classes compare? Because it's a lot of the same people like that carried over from last year to this year.
Mochi Jr. actually is not eligible anymore.
No, he's not.
When I'm looking,
votes.
I think this class this year is better.
Yeah, you had people like Nagai, Odashima, Nagao who were not eligible. Owada,
and these three, I think a lot about Daiki Nagai. He's just incredible too. He's just this fire around him. Daiki Odashima is incredible as well, just like Taishin Nagao. All these wrestlers in their respective companies will have a great run in 2025 as the rookies.
Yep.
Chi-Chi, I said it, she's incredible. The one that I can't get behind on that list is Victoria Yuzuki. I don't think that she's had a great year.
I thought she stood out like the very early run she had in Stardom. It looked like she was going to be a big time player.
Yeah, but she's not.
And I don't think it's panned out, unfortunately. I mean, that whole company has had some struggles. Those not, to be honest. I mean, she's better off than Kazuna. Like, I mean, that.
Oh yeah.
That
Jesus.
back injury match was one of the saddest things that I saw. Like, because if you look at it, after they end the match and just go to it, you can actually see her put her hands on her face because she's crying. And the part that hurt me is that I bet she was crying because she couldn't finish. Like, she blamed it herself that she couldn't finish the match. And I was like, no, like, you're so injured. And everybody online was mad about that. And they should have been. They were right on there. And it shows you that they haven't done a great job developing talent right there so far. But, and Yuzuki, I don't think has gotten to her potential. Maybe she'll get there. She's still very early on in her career. I don't have any negative thoughts on anybody there right now when they're so young. Some people take years and years to develop, when you talk about where we're going next with the most improved. I mean, some of these people have been around for a long time, and it took them a while to get there. So I don't write any of these youngsters off, but I just think it's interesting that a lot of the top people this year were already getting votes last year on there. It's like they were already on our radar as fans and analysts and things like that. Like, they were already there a year ago, and they've just gotten even better this year.
Yes. So, most improved, Dylan. The top three that we have from the listeners are on position number 3, Mai Sakurai. Number 2, Ishin. And on top of that list is David Finlay. And David Finlay is someone that I also have but it's not the one that I would say is the most improved overall this year. He had a great run. He had a great run, and he improved, certainly. But there's one person that I think actually improved more that I will mention in a bit here. And I also don't have my Sakurai in my top 3. At the half-year awards, I had Seigo Tachibana as my most improved.
A great pick.
This Seigo Tachibana has dropped to number 3. Still, though, in my top 3. I think that Seigo had a great year. Unfortunately, he is going to be with Kuroshio Tokyo Japan's new promotion.
Yeah.
I was so hopeful that he would be signed to All Japan Pro Wrestling, but no. He obviously has to go with Uptown. Well, that's it. David Finlay, number 2 for me. My overall most improved is Strong Machine J. I think that at the point when he entered Natural Vibes, he did it with this break dance, and I wasn't sure what this was going to be, and I wasn't sure either what Natural Vibes would be looking like with him on top of the group. But I've said it on my Blue Sky account this morning after watching the match with Yamato at Gay of Bayside. I never thought that this dude would be able to work this gimmick to the extent that he did. I had never thought when he had debuted in Dragon Gate that this would be an actual main event level gimmick. And that this dude would be so engaging as a top guy. The way he makes this gimmick work, and I used the phrase that he breathes life into the machine. He is much better than his dad was with the gimmick. He is just incredible. He knows how to use the mask and how to use his body to convey emotions. That is one of the most crucial parts, of course, that you have to do as a masked wrestler, to convey your emotions through your body. And that's hard, but he is able to do that. He's able to get you invested in his matches. And for that sake, for making that Strong Machine gimmick, a main event level gimmick with a lot of engagement throughout Dragon Gate, for that I have him most improved.
I like him a lot, don't get me wrong. I think his improvement was really 2023, like more so than 2024, in my opinion, when they were doing the Shun feud. This year, I mean, again, he was good in his like trios role. Like, don't get me wrong, like, he's very talented. I just don't think he improved that much from what we saw. Like, I thought he was already improved. Like, to be honest,
the improvement, I think that the improvement was more so from the way that how the guy carries himself. 2023 with the cage match and all was very good, but I think he carries himself more like a top guy now in 2024, which is where the improvement that I see is.
Maybe 2025 after this baseline match you watched, you saw that.
Man, of course it was of course recency bias, of course, yeah.
Because I mean to me, Ishin was the one that really improved in Dragon Gate because he was going like. Strong Machine J was already in a good spot heading into 2024, and he's done a great job. Again, taking out this morning's match out of it, which he did a great job at. Don't get me wrong, I saw that too. It was a great performance, no doubt. But as the trios guy, I think he was a great leader of his team. I thought he did a lot for UT. Mm-hmm. But Ishin actually got a main event spot and did a phenomenal job with it, like against Yamato. Which was one of the best matches of the year that nobody expected, like to really be that big. And I thought he passed with flying colors, whereas when he was Brave Gate champion a year prior, he sucked. Like in my opinion, like I didn't think he was very good at all. And I know some people were on his train. I know some people already liked him, but I think even those people like have to admit that he's improved vastly. And I think the same thing about Jay is what I would also say about Finlay. I think he was already a strong worker. People had negative opinions on him because of where they saw him at the start, and it carried over. And we saw it with Yoshihashi and a ton of other people, where they didn't like him at first, and they just held on and held on even after they improved. it takes you a little while to kind of warm up to guys you've already decided aren't good, I feel like.
Mhm.
And I think Finley suffered from that because he was already like a really good worker last year. Like every G1, you can point to a big match he had when he got the chance to step up to where he killed it huge. And I think that this year he got more chances, yes, but I always thought he was good. And that's just my personal opinion on that. And I feel the same. Well, Jay, I think, again, there was a time when I thought Jay didn't have it. Like, to be
Yeah,
honest.
exactly.
You know, like
Yes.
3-4 years ago when he came
And I
in,
mean,
I was like, yeah.
yeah, I was very down on him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ishin is a great pick too. Don't get me wrong. I like him too. Probably not that into it like others are, but I see the improvement definitely.
Yeah, I think that Ishii deserves props for it, though. Overall. For me, I think you can go a lot of different ways. I think all of these underrated people are that the fans voted for were really good or most improved.
Mhm.
I would go. I actually think the one we just talked about before, who wasn't actually a rookie, like Yuriko Oka, deserves to be up there. I think she would be my pick even over Ishin, actually.
Hmm.
I think that since and she's gotten around, she's done a good job and gotten over well enough, around these days for the last few years. But I think once she really went in with the team with Mio, I
Yeah.
think that's when like there was a new level to her that was unlocked, and she carried it over into her singles run to the point where she's like, Ishin's good. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't like him at all before. I thought he was like
Hmm.
vastly overrated by his fans, but I was really down on him. Now I've come around and realized, okay, he's really improved a lot, and I think he's done a great job the last year. But there's still Ishin's not one of my favorite guys in Dragon Gate. Ultimately, like if you asked me to name a top 10, he probably wouldn't be in it. Like even though and that's a strength of the roster. Don't get me wrong, that there's a lot of great guys on there, but he wouldn't be one of my favorites. Oka, I think, has done a great job of being one of my favorite people outside of the top Joshi companies. She's one of my favorite people, along with her partner, obviously, who
She's
is not.
great. Yes.
Yeah, so I would say Oka is my number one pick for most of it.
That's actually a great pick, I think. And when I'm looking at those that are very close here to Oka, she is slightly behind Hanan and behind Mai Sakurai. Hanan, in my opinion, improved in the field of the presentation that she got,
That's a good point.
not necessarily in the wrestling part. Mai Sakurai, she improved from a very low point to being moderately good. But I think Yurika Oka, for her, the team with Mio that you just mentioned, that flipped the switch, that unlocked a lot of potential in her. And I would put her above Hanan and Mai too.
It's funny because they all had very similar stories where
Yeah.
like they tried to do the same thing with all of them. They were around, at certain points at certain levels, and then with Hanan, the difference is that they actually tried to push her as a single star earlier in the year,
Mhm.
and it wasn't that great, to be honest. Like the Cinderella run and the match with Ano afterwards, it wasn't that special to me. Um, I think she really unlocked her potential with the tag team with Wingori, like with Saida.
Yes. Yes.
And the same thing with Sakurai. They tried to do the same thing with Mirai, and I didn't even think that tag team was good, ultimately. So, like that, Sakurai, I'm definitely more down on than a lot of people. Yes, she's improved, but I think we're pretty much on the same page with her, that we are just not that into her. I think I said something similar to that I thought she would be up there based on my finger on the pulse when I did the preview show. When we made our predictions and everything for 2025. I did a segment on the awards, like a very quick segment early on, and I mentioned her that I thought she may be a candidate to win, and I wouldn't agree with it if they did. People like her more than me, and she has improved. I'm not saying that she hasn't, but I think when you look at Oka, they all kind of did. Oka, Hanan, and Mai all did similar kind of things with a tag run that really helped them elevate. And I think Oka was by far the best, like the one that used it the best. So yeah. What do you think
What
about Mozilla most improved with her 1 year in Japan, like 6 months?
I think actually she decreased actually from where she started.
Only due to booking, not not her.
Yeah,
In my
yeah.
opinion.
Due to
That match
booking,
was
but
fantastic.
it was, yeah, and especially the entrance.
Which was great too.
I think the booking also had an impact on the way she carries herself.
Yeah.
The confidence she had was much, much higher at the beginning when she came in than it is now.
Hmm. Well, her and Tank, you know.
Nope.
Loser leaves Marigold already for one of these people.
Well, there is only one way that can go, actually.
We'll see. I think you may have been onto something with your opinions on Tank before. But yeah, Ozawa, I like
Yeah.
charisma, like is like way better. Like I mean, he's coming in as a young lion, and now he's just like outlandish character. So like that's definitely improved.
But he was very good before.
Yeah, exactly. He was already good. Like it's just the character that improved. Again, I think a lot of people too. Booking will impact like this vote for a lot of people. Like I mean, even with Finlay, I mean, he got to have this title run, and people got to see him in big matches over and over, and that's better than a guy who we know is good if you watch his wrestling, but he's not actually doing anything of importance. You know, so I can understand that as well overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to the one that voted All Japan Pro Wrestling as most improved.
They were already good heading into the year. Like I disagree with this.
Yeah.
Yes, I disagree with this in both ways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lots of people. Shinya Aoki, how about him?
Yeah, he came in at the 11th hour. Like he was one of the last people to get votes.
I mean, I don't think he was any different, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just... Like he won the title though. Again, that's a thing. Like you got to see him as a main event guy, and he was doing goofy stuff. So I could actually understand that a little bit based on booking. Mio, like Momono, getting the edge over Oka, I don't agree with at all. She was always great as well. You had Mizumori would be my number 2, I think. Like I thought that she
proved very well. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was always a great character. Like I always had a lot of love for the Pineapple Girl. Don't get me wrong, but somewhere along the line, a switch flipped in her in Stardom, and right around that 5-star Grand Prix, where that tournament was you had the 4 blocks, and she was kind of not in a great situation, but she was like, all right, the comedy stuff was cool. I am now going to be a badass, and it was awesome. Like she's a great power wrestler. And we saw it in the high-speed match versus May Sarah. That match was phenomenal. That was like the best match on the tag league, and it wasn't even a tag league match. It got to be in the main event. It was good booking. She's great. Mizumori definitely deserves love. She's close. Man, like she's up there with Oka to me. But regardless, we had a lot of great candidates on here. Hanako, I think, has improved as well across the year.
Junta Miyawaki. That's a big no for me.
No. Yeah, I don't agree with that. We got Dan on here, Dan Tamara.
I know, no.
We're going for that every award. But no, I don't agree with that either. But some of these guys, like pretty much all of these names, had good years of some sort. You know, it's just we think they were already good. with some of these. Like, that's the only difference. It's not like I'm saying, oh, Strong Machine J is a bad pick because he sucks. I'm saying, well, I always thought he was good. And same thing with all these guys.
Ryo Inoue, for example, is a very similar pick to what I said about Strong Machine J. Already good, but the way he carries himself this year has been completely different from years past.
I mean, he wasn't really doing anything for most of the year. Like, he was always
true. That's true, but the gimmick changed into this outlandish, not as outlandish as Osawa, of course, but in a way, outlandish character was something that people probably looked at.
Yeah, I mean, I think 2025. For me, I've always really liked him. To be fair, I've always really respected his game, but I do get where you're coming from with the character.
Yeah. So since we already. Yes, he won most improved.
Yeah.
We already had All Japan Pro Wrestling for most improved, so we go to the next award for the best promotion. We also have All Japan Pro Wrestling mentioned here. All Japan made number 2 for the listeners, for the voters. New Japan Pro Wrestling came in as number 3. And the number 1 promotion is Dragon Gate for the listeners. So, Dylan, on number 3, for me, I have Stardom. We discussed Stardom recently on our last show. And the year that they had, 2024, can be considered a big improvement in comparison to 2023, where lots of things were in disarray. And it helped them to get a very successful gate and crowd for their final show of the year for Dream Queendom. Lots of stories came together, lots of stories paid off for them. So I think that Stardom has had a great year in 2024. For me, number 3 in Japan. And very similar to the listeners, I also have All Japan Pro Wrestling on my position number 2. How about you?
I would have had All Japan winning, to be honest. I think that it's close between DG and All Japan. Mm-hmm. And I think with recency bias, people are going to go with DG more. This was close. Like, until the last couple of votes, it was like even keel. Where New Japan and All Japan DG were constantly, with each other. Like, it was like we didn't know who was going to win. But the last couple of votes really pushed it over the top for DG. But I think recency bias will give you DG with Yamato's great reign. But I think Anzai's reign was like the best stuff of any company, like this year, ultimately. Like, I would put Anzai's reign ahead of Yamato's reign. Even though I like Yamato's reign, don't get me wrong. I think that era, you had the Saito brothers be great tag wrestlers then. You had Seigo build up the TV belt. Like, all of the undercards were easy to watch and fun. I think I would go with All Japan a little bit more overall, and they don't lie about their attendance as much. So I could give them an edge on that over DG.
I recently came across that post that I saw in the Discord for Cage Match, and Dragon Gate actually is the number 2 promotion for crowds now in Japan, and that's just ridiculous. That's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah, so I penalized DG a little bit because of that reason. Maybe that's a little biased.
I get it. So DG is awesome. Yeah, DG had a great year, and they are my number 1 promotion too. There was just a lot. Yeah, there was just a lot to hold on to. They told great stories. They had great guys coming in, like Tomita, for example. Like I said, shot in the arm for the company immediately. They were able to tell the story with the veterans, with Yamato on top. Yamato was a crucial part, of course, of the entire company. And what you can say is that they managed to get all of their groups into a position that you can believably think that they could have a triangle gate run in. And that is what Jay said on commentary earlier this morning on Bayside, that a good triangle scene is a symbol of the company doing good right now. And nothing proves that more than Gold Class, because Gold Class basically was dead in the water for a long time. And what I can also attribute to them too is Big Hug was a big thing for the first half year, but it didn't work out overall, and they ended that. And all of them went to different ways. We still have to see where Hio and Luis Mante will end up. But overall, I think DG this year was so engaging, so good, just in a lot of ways, just in the storyline ways, and also in ring, that I think that they deserve promotion of the year.
They were good. I think that overall, the first half of the year was really not that great, actually. Like, again, I think you could call weaknesses out with any company. Like, there are certain parts that were better than others. But I think that whole Monte run was a real drag, actually.
Yeah.
And even the cage match, which everyone points to, it's a great moment. It led to a moment for Hyo that didn't even matter in the end, ultimately. Like, so to me, the first half of the year was worse than whatever All Japan's worst was, like, this year. And I think the best of All Japan was better than the best of Dragon Gate. So, like, that would be my point of it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. It's for All Japan, I love what they are doing. Yep.
I was just saying, I think DG closed stronger than All Japan.
Yeah, they definitely did. And for All Japan, sometimes it's hard to follow up for them because sometimes they run very inconsistently. They will have a Korakuen Hall show, and then for 2 or 3 weeks they will do nothing. While Dragon Gate is always on the road, always producing, always showing, having matches, and while they sometimes do not make air,
that was going to be my counter.
you will still get some storyline element that is posted online out of that, and that is something where All Japan misses in some parts.
That's another bummer, actually. Now that you bring that up, I mean, I remember that King of Gate, like we couldn't see almost all of them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the Carnival wasn't a great tournament, but we could at least see like all of it, and it ended with a great final. To be fair,
True. Yeah.
But
so there's actually there's arguments for both companies to be made to be number one.
What about? I thought it's interesting because I had the same as you. I'd start him as my third.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little surprised that you picked him, to be honest. I agree with you, obviously, but I feel like you've always been a little down on them.
This past year specifically, I tried to follow them more. I watched all of their big shows. I watched some of the Korakuens. This is something that I also want to do in 2025, watch more of the Korakuens that they do, and follow along with the big shows. And I got into some characters that they present. I specifically got into Hanan much more than before I got her. I was always a big fan of Sayaida, so that worked for me as well. Big fan of Hazuki and Koguma as a tag team, of course. Yes. So that worked out for me. So there was something that I could attach to. That is always what was the problem for me, that there was so much going on in Stardom that I didn't really have anything that I could attach myself to. But there are characters that have improved and that are different from other characters now, I feel.
And you said it right there. There was improvement, because I think when Okada took over as Booker, there was a lot of stuff going on that was just like really bad. Like, it's like, man, this company's going off the rails. Okada doesn't know anything about wrestling. Like, this guy needs to go back to the airline industry, or wherever he came from. But he really grew, like, as the year went along, and he made some moves that Kamatani heel turn, everybody buried that when it happened. Like,
yes.
And it paid off in the end. Like, he got there in a way that was because ultimately, I've said it before, I think that Kamatani would have won the belt even if Ogawa had stayed, but Okada decided to do what everybody saw they wanted to do, but do it in a completely unexpected and different way. And again, it started off really rocky, and not even that they did anything. It was just a negative call. Like, people thought it was bad. And by the end of the year, I think they've really made it work. So he's made some bold moves, and some of them have paid off. And I think the company, as you said, in terms of an improved company, I mean, I think 2023 was like completely a disaster of a year for them. And 2024, they were able to stabilize and really move forward in a good way. And I think they deserve a lot of credit. I would have no problem with any of these. The three companies we said, any one I think are good. Like, would be good picks to win.
Yes. Show of the year, Dylan. Take the lead.
Show of the year. So many great shows this year. If you look at the undercard, so to speak, of the ones we had, but the top three among the fans, and technically this could be a tie. Like, we have not counted out a poll yet for this award, because it's the second closest award. But the top three: Power Struggle came in the third, New Beginning in Osaka was the second, and Destiny Invitational has the win right now. But if we both vote for a New Beginning, we could force a poll here. Some undercard votes too that we got. Other people that got more than a vote: Tokyo Joshi Pro Grand Princess and Peter Pan for DDT, both tied. And Marigold Summer Destiny all tied for fourth there. Sariism Chapter 5 and Stormgate and Korakuen. That was the Ishin and Yamato match and the Homari debut show. That was a great show.
Yeah, I have that too.
Wrestle Kingdom got a few votes, which is pretty interesting. There, you had Bloodsport Bushido, the unique Bloodsport show that Josh Barnett brought to Japan.
Yes.
Noah Destination. That was a show when it was Kaito and Inamura and AJ Styles wrestled Marufuji.
That was a good show.
Yeah, that was by the end for sure. Kobe World, like the big DG show of the year. You had a lot of matches on there. That Kobe World was an interesting year. That was when Yamato won the belt off of Benkei in the main event.
Mm.
King of Pro Wrestling for New Japan. Got some votes there. That was when Zach won the belt off of Naito. I think that win and that emotional moment helped spur that along to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And Judgment for DDT snuck in there at the end. So all of those got some representation, more than one vote. For you though, Strig, what was your show of the year?
I'm about to spoil it now with my number 3 vote. Number 3 for me is The New Beginning in Osaka.
Okay, so there will be no poll.
There will be no poll. It dropped a bit. I had it on my number 2 for half year because there was one show that came in, and this is the first time, Dylan, actually, for this show, for the year-end awards, that there is an actual live element that comes into it, because I was at some of these shows live and saw some of the matches live.
Okay.
And this is where the live factor comes in, and DDT Ultimate Party 2024 makes my number 2 show of the year. I've said it on the last show. I don't think that comes as a surprise because I was so happy with this show live. And even the cage match voters, it has a rating that is above 8. So that is a very good rating for a show. But no show in 2024 made me feel like Despi Invitational did. Despi Invitational, like it was coined. Mm-hmm. The Invitational was special. It was a special moment in time. It was a special show. Kurken was filled to no end. Hiromu Takahashi got bloody before the match even started. It was wild. It was a wild show. It felt like a unique show, and that made it stand out in comparison to everything else that Japan produced in 2024, in my opinion.
It was a heavy vibe show, I would say overall.
Yes.
You had a little bit of everything there. So yeah, I definitely think that should be up there. I really don't have any argument against it, to be honest. I think
that is actually the one argument against it, that it was a vibes show, where you could actually counter it to saying The New Beginning, for example, had better matches in Zack and Danielson and the cage match.
Yeah, that's why I would pick it. Overall, because I think that as a wrestling show, it was better. Even if the vibes and the other show was good. The thing is, there are a lot of vibe shows these days, and not a lot of actually great wrestling. There's a lot more vibes than there's good wrestling these days. So I really like that we got that New Beginning show. I personally, and we talked about it with Best Bout, I personally loved the cage match. I know a lot of people thought it was too long. I thought it was an amazing send-off for Ospreay. Mm-hmm. You got the last dance for Okada and Tanahashi. For now, it's looking even more like it may be permanent with some of the comments that Okada's made.
Yep.
I do think they'll do something. I don't know if it'll be a singles match, but I just cannot imagine him not doing anything with him, no matter how deep this hatred he may have for New Japan may be overall. But for now, it's the last thing we had. It was very emotional at the time. And Zach and Brian, which is an incredible match. So I think that was my personal pick for the show of the year. We may not get a poll, but I tried. For everybody out there. My number 2, I would pick Osaka Pro's Excalibur show from December 29th.
Oh, yeah, that came in late too, right?
Yeah. It's on YouTube. It just came in a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
So everybody should check that show out, because I thought that if you look at that show, and I was talking to somebody on Blue Sky about this, they talked about how they wish that they had voted for that. It came in so late they didn't get to watch it. Because one of our faithful listeners put it up on YouTube a little bit late. But when you look at that card, that match at the end with Toru and Zeus, I thought that was a great story where you had Toru get the title. They made it seem like a big moment. And I actually even thought the Matsufusa and Shiba match was as good or better. On there.
Where did that show actually air?
I don't know. It was on YouTube.
Okay, it was just a YouTube upload, so I didn't see
one of
the
our
show
listeners
actually.
One of our
But when
listeners uploaded it.
yeah, but when I'm looking at the card, it looks like an incredible card at the business end with Yoichiro Osaka and Kanjiro Matsuyama for the comedy title. Is that the comedy title that they do?
Are you
I don't
kidding
know.
me? You cannot respect the level the Meibutsu Sakaichi title.
Yes.
Come on.
Come
It is a
on.
comedy. It is
a
the
comedy.
title.
And Ryomatsu Fusa against Suzaku, that sounds incredible.
That was
Shiba.
Yeah, that was I think I thought that was like even better than the main event.
Yeah. Quite Storm and Irie against Shu Asakawa and Yasutaka Osera sounds incredible. Toro and Zeus sounds incredible. I gotta check that show out.
Look it up. Just Google it. Osaka Pro Excalibur 2024. Yep. And put the video tab. You'll find it for sure. Like I said, one of our listeners uploaded it. So
and you know, I'm just checking. Osaka Pro also got votes for promotion of the year.
It deserved it.
It can't be understated how well Osaka Pro is doing with Zeus as a president. He really made this. Osaka Pro basically was a dead company. They were never really dead. They ran shows, but the brand didn't really light anyone on fire anymore. But with Zeus going into that company, he left a good gig in All Japan Pro Wrestling from a national promotion to go back to Osaka to get into this promotion. And he got great people into the promotion, like Toru was not working for Osaka Pro before. Shu Asakawa was working for 2AW before. Osera as a regular from Michinoku Pro. And all of these guys that came into the company, like, for example, Harutoki, before he went to Pro Wrestling Noah, Ryoya Matsufusa is an incredible talent. And all the legends and veterans that they have in the Billy Ken Kid, for example, Tsubasa, it's a great variety of wrestlers that they have.
Absolutely. And I have sent you the video, by the way, of that.
Great stuff.
So I thought you might have watched it already, but I sent it to you. So yeah, check that out for sure. Definitely one of the best overall shows of the year. And it did a great number too in Osaka.
Mm-hmm. Incredible number.
Yeah. And that's something they also don't get credit for from a business sense. Like, they always do good. Like, Zeus has really put together a great home team for Osaka. Yes. There. So definitely DM me or something if you want to see the show. I'll send it to you. Like, I would say that to all the listeners up there. On there if you need any help.
Unfortunate that they didn't make their YouTube, because they started out 2025 with 2 uploads on there, and those shows were fine.
Not as good as this one.
Not as good. No.
By the way, I really love the Rogue Nation team and their match too. I think it's I think I'm one of the few that thinks Asakawa is better than Usera, and I like them both. But I've always been a big fan of Shu Asakawa, even in his 2AW days. So they're a really good tag team. Like like I would say the last 5 matches are all worth watching, and the first 2 are easily skippable and not that offensive anyway. The opener is pretty good actually. Yeah.
It's good.
Also, if I were just to quickly say the third, for me, I put we got a vote for the Limit Break 2 show in May. I think I would put the Limit Break 1 actually.
Yeah, Limit Break 1 was better.
Yeah, I thought so too. So they're both good. Like, Limit Break 2 was good. Don't get me wrong, but I thought Limit Break 1 was like a really special vibe that set the stage for the rest of the year overall.
Also want to give a shout out to what show was it? It was Sariism Chapter 5 with the incredible main event. Mayu Watani and Sari going over Shihiro Hashimoto and Benny.
Yeah.
That was a great show.
This is another one. I actually thought Sariism 4 was a better overall show. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. That got a couple of votes too, but most people said 5 was the better one. But if you look at 4's card, it had the best friends match versus Momoto and Kawahara. It had you versus Hiragi Kurumi. It had Poi and Sari versus Azumi and Rohan. I love that match a lot. Like I said, and you had Chi-Chi versus Miria Koga, which is a very fun opener. So I actually thought 4 was as good or better as a show than 5, but I know a lot of people thought 5, and obviously the main event captured the hearts of many
Yep,
people.
it did.
Let's talk about that very match with this next award we have here.
Yeah, we do. We have the next award where I quickly have to go there. Yeah, the best bout, Dylan.
That's right.
With the listeners, we have Sari versus Mayu Iwatani that came in number 3. When we talked about when we do the recording, I told you, are you ready for the Sari games? And here we are. Sari is in how many matches is she that were mentioned? At least 3 that I'm seeing right now. And they all made the top 5. So
and then the Takahashi got a vote as well. I've heard
okay.
versus Nanai as well.
Oh, okay.
Well deserved.
Yes.
So 4 votes. 4 matches.
Yeah. Sari versus Mayu, number 3. Sari and Mayu against Veni and Shio Hashimoto, I just mentioned, number 2. And number 1 for the listeners, Zack Sabre Jr. against Brian Danielson from February. So I want to say that I also gave Sari versus Nanae Takahashi a shout out. It's not in my top 3 though, just barely didn't make the cut.
Right.
But it was an exceptional match. For the moment in time, I don't think that a lot of people expected that level of violence from the two that it turned out to be. It was a great match.
I did.
I know you did. The steel cage match. I had it on number 2 for a half year, but it dropped. And I don't have it in my top 3. And the reason for that is that nothing came of that.
Yeah, we've spoken about that earlier in the year. I totally agree with you.
For all of these guys, I mean, something happened for some of these guys. For example, like when you have Gabe Kidd, he has this great role now. Brilla Maloney also is moving up to heavyweight apparently. But for the most part, it didn't do a lot for these people. And it was a great send-off for Will Ospreay, yes. Did something for David Finlay, but his own work did more for him than this moment, I think. So
it didn't do anything because they had him lose the Nemeth right away. Like that was like the next week they had him drop the title.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, that sucked totally. Yeah, so it didn't come across well. So I thought about the matches actually that made me feel that pro wrestling is something special and that pro wrestling is alive and well. And there are 3 matches that came to mind that made me feel that wrestling has a heart and soul. And the first match that I want to mention is, and I tweeted about that today, by the way, Roy Oiwa against Kaito Kiyomiya in August for Pro Wrestling Noah. What an incredible match that was. When I saw it, the level of work, the engagement from the fans, the reactions to it, on that day, it all came together for these 2 guys to create magic. And when you think about where they are right now, in that moment, they were on top of their game. Right now, obviously Kaito is where he is right now. Oiwa also is just a dude on the card, even though he got a win over Yoshihashi recently. He is just a dude in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But on that day in Korakuen Hall, they were the main event and they were carrying themselves like they were. So that was a very special match to me in 2024. I just got to check if I'm not mistakenly mentioning the rematch between the 2.
The one to me, the N1 match was the best one. The one that went 30 minutes.
I mean the N1 match.
Yeah.
That maybe, is that the one in August? I think it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did the rematch in September, which wasn't as good as the N1.
Exactly. So that is what I was looking for, right? So that's the one. And the second one that also goes in line with what I just said was Yuma Anzai versus Hideki Suzuki from June 24. I basically can repeat what I said with Oiwa and Kiyomiya, except for the part that both of them are relevant in their own ways. They are relevant just from the very first moment when they first wrestled, not even in a singles match, but in a tag role. You knew that the chemistry between the two was off the charts, and they proved it here in the singles match. This is my number 2 match of the year. And the number 1 remained number 1 from the half-year awards. Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. was, to me, pro wrestling art at its best, while still portraying the violence that pro wrestling can bring. This was just incredible and something very special.
I thought it was interesting because the Anzai and Hideki match was one of the first votes we got. And Kaito and Oyo was one of the last votes. Like, it took until the very end until anybody brought that up, which I'm surprised by because I thought that match was awesome and very unique as well. They really went old school with it all the way home. Both of those matches did, really, when you think about it. Hideki and Yuma as well. They were a much more classical style of match, and I think that what you said is so true. Like, the Hideki and Anzai match did so much more for Anzai than the other match did for those two. But in terms of wrestling quality, like, it was right there. I might even say it was even a little bit more, like, more complete of what they wanted to do than Hideki and Anzai. But I mean, both matches were great too. Overall, I would have. I think the Oiwa Kaito match suffers from the same thing, where, you know, they just never really went anywhere with it. But I think it was great, though. I think it deserves to be in the top 3 overall.
It was a culmination of a very good story between the two.
Yeah, I think a little underrated, I have to say. But I will say that here. I personally think Sari and Mayu as a singles match was better than the tag match, in my opinion. I thought that would be my number 2. Sari and Mayu from Stardom. Sari just had so many great matches all over the place, for sure. The tag match was great. I mean, she's still having them. Just the other day, she had the match with Vinny, which Meltzer may not agree is that great, but I think that to people who actually know what they're talking about, they realize that Sari is one of the best wrestlers in the world, regardless of gender, ultimately, if you're not biased in some sort of way. So you see these great Sari matches. I thought the Iwatani match was a little better than the Hash match and a little better than the tag match as well. But for me, ultimately, you can like copy and paste what we said in the half-year awards and put it in here. Like, all of that stuff is still equally true at the end of the year as it was in July. So to me, I completely agree with you. I think the listeners got it right. Yeah, Brian and Zach was the only thing that had me thinking maybe we could see something squeeze up. And I mean, it wasn't a blowaway run. We had a lot of matches get nominated for this. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a lot of matches that got shout outs and that touched certain people over the year. It's kind of like similar to last year. I felt the same way about last year's award, where it was Omega and Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom, where this is the boring vote. Like the Bryan versus Zach. It's like, we know, everybody knows how great it is. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's not the right one. Like it's still the right one, though. So I cannot vote against it when I know that it's the one everyone already knows is amazing and loves so much. But there's just no argument against it, in my opinion. That was the match of the year.
What do you think about a vote like Jon Moxley versus Shingo Takagi from New Japan's Battle in the Valley that took place in America?
I didn't think that match was that great, first of all.
Me neither.
Is the first problem with that. I mean, I've always been we've always kind of gone back and forth on the New Japan America shows. At first, I was kind of in favor of counting them, but the more we've gone along, it's like it's gone so far different and means so little now. I mean, if anything, it's probably nice that they even got a mention, like ultimately there. But I mean, I wouldn't count that as, if you ranked all of these matches we got, that would not be far from the bottom, in my opinion. Like, if we were to rank all of them.
What do you think about the Mayumi Ozaki versus Mio Momono match from April?
I wasn't into that as much as some people. But
it was very controversial at the moment when it happened. I didn't think it was that good either, but I sure wasn't in the camp that thought that it was a disaster either.
No, it was like, if you watch it as just a match, I thought it was like kind of captivating, like with what they tried to do. But in terms of a full, like if you judge every part of the match, the execution, the story, and all of that, I think it falls short overall. Like, if I will say this, they've built it up like so much now with this Ozaki and Momono thing, that they were able to successfully build a match. Like, if she were to ever beat Ozaki, that would feel like a major moment.
Yes.
So I will give them credit for that. I thought it was captivating, but not a great match, if that makes sense.
That does make sense, actually. I'm just looking at some more.
Hey, what about the match you were live at? Onsai and Hayato versus Miyahara and Inoue. That got a vote.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that was a great match, man. I didn't even consider that, actually. I didn't think about that.
Another match I would shout out that didn't get voted on would be the Takeshita Goto match from the G1. I thought that was the best match of the G1, in my opinion.
It was a great one.
And it was like such a heartwarming moment. I think we did get a vote for Phantasmo and Takeshita, which was also a fantastic match. You know, both of those were great, and it shows you why Takeshita is so respected, that he was able to really be the dude in the G1 this year. But I wanted to shout that Goto match. Goto and Tsuji did get a vote. I mean, that was the Tokyo Sports match of the year. So good stuff. Like, New Japan had some good tournament matches in there. All the matches were good. Like, it was a good lineup this year. I thought the last vote being the Dead or Alive cage match was interesting, because like at the half year awards, everyone was like going crazy over that.
It's interesting. We've said it. We've briefly discussed it before the show, Dylan. A multitude of matches that we have actually happened in the first half of the year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you've said it before too, before we started recording. Between September and December, there is this dead zone in Japanese pro wrestling. And it feels like this year more so than in years before, because I don't think that we actually had that many great matches in the second half of the year. It's not been that great.
Well, I think that kind of goes along to where, like, Noah really struggled after the N1
heavily.
Yeah, you had Oiwa leaving, and that just wasn't a place for great matches. Ultimately, a lot of the focus was on the Kaito storyline. All Japan, I mean, they're kind of at, they had to deal with Davey as champion, like the last half of the year.
Well, they didn't have to, but they chose to.
Well, they chose to. Yeah, you're right. Aoyagi, I thought the Aoyagi and Ayame match was a really good match, but not like a match of the year level match. And I think that's the big difference when Onsai was the champion to what happened after. Overall, that was kind of a drop off there. So that's all three of the top companies are like struggling in some way. Then you had DG. I thought they came through at the end with Daya and Yamato. I thought that was a great match. I wouldn't put it as a match of the year, but I thought they like built to that very well. DDT had Ultimate Party, which was like their fans like just totally loved it, and like you said, the cage match inmates loved it, and you loved it. You were there. I mean, it was a good show. Like overall, like even for me, I'm not a super passionate DDT fan, but I liked it too overall. But still, that's like one show like of the half year, like you're building to that end of the year run where everybody had big shows. You got to see a lot. Like we had a vote for Poi and Starlight off of the Stardom show, which was a great match for sure. But besides that, there just wasn't a lot there. There's a lot of tag leagues going on. That holds it back. People just aren't as interested in a lot of that stuff, I think.
I don't know if it's so funny that promotions will just do the same concept at the same time. Is that something that they discuss at the beginning, like that they come to terms to, that they always do the tag leagues at the same time and those singles tournaments at the same time? Because I mean, switching it around would be beneficial to all of the companies, I guess. And isn't that something that this United Japanese Pro Wrestling Association should be going after?
I could believe that. Like, I sent it to you right away. You never responded, so I didn't know what you thought.
I'm sorry. I was very occupied.
It's okay. But I saw this and I laughed so hard. Like, we did this already. You announced this already. You did shows already. Why are you doing this press conference like it's this new thing? What the? That was crazy.
Dylan, it's now mandatory.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now it's centralized. Like
now we're a proper organization. Like the thing before wasn't anything proper.
Well, I mean, they are right about that. I will say that. But yeah, like that was so comical to me that I couldn't believe it. But you're right. They should try to do that where, you know,
it's not a law of nature that tag leagues have to happen in December.
At least Dragon Gate does something different, where the King of Gate in November. It sucks that we didn't see it, but the tag league will be in March. Noah is doing the tag league earlier this year again, so I like that they did that this year as well, or this past year as well. They should switch around the N1, I would say, to try and get it. That would be good if you could have Carnival, N1, and then bridge into the G1 rather than have like a bunch of them competing at the same time.
I would actually say Carnival, G1, and N1.
At the end of the
later at the year, because we always scramble what the main event for the big Budokan / whatever building they have is.
And then you could do King of Gate in between Carnival and G1, because then that would set up Kobe World. That's what they used to do. Like, So yeah, like, I mean, look at that. Look at how easily we organize this. Like, you know. And for some reason, yeah, I think the problem is it's just the same story in a lot of, especially Japanese businesses in general, not just wrestling. I think are so dedicated to their history that's like, okay, the tag league was in December in 1983, so it must be so like this year. It's like, no, stop it, move on. Like, that's in the past. Like, we don't need to keep combining these boring tag leagues. None of them are that good. It is also another issue with it. I mean, this New Japan tag league was the worst I've ever seen. Like this past year, it didn't even lead to anything. Like they, you know, it was just it was just a total joke.
So they did the tag league for the Young Bucks to end up as champions. Obviously, yes, of course, because of the injury, but it's still funny.
They were gonna win the belts anyway. Like so, regardless of the injury. And the problem is Naito and Hiromu won the tag league. And that led to a singles match between them at the Dome. So yeah, I mean, that's just one of those things that they all need to work on in general, and maybe this time will be the charm with United Japan's Striga.
Oh yeah, like this will be the one that turns it all around.
I mean, the vast differences that we're seeing already with this press conference, which was shockingly similar to the last time they announced this. It's like they had people from every company in a suit talking about this United Japan. I feel like I've seen it already. Am I in the Twilight Zone, Striga? Like, did I dream that?
What do you think about the Kidani comments that he made?
Oh, well, she sounded like a dumbass. Of course. Yeah, I mean, why would he say that? At the end, the thing is, I think, again, I don't want to speak for anyone here.
It was bad, and it's gotten even worse with the way he talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was all bad. Like, it was all bad, and he's only making it worse. And like I said, I think he tried, like, in his mind, he was like being funny, like making a joke. But it was like, you can't say that as if you're in his position.
And especially, like, he talked about pro wrestling fans, like, they were so offended easily. But when you go to any other walk of life, people will criticize the shit out of you when you talk like that.
Yeah, because he was saying about, like, oh, I do stuff in entertainment and this other thing.
Exactly.
They don't react like this. So what the? Yeah. I mean, that was a lame excuse. No, nobody bought that. I don't think. Like, all the fans see through what he's trying to do, and he's got himself in hot water yet again.
Yeah.
There's only so many times you could have these wrestlers hit you in the face, like, to solve these problems. At the end of the day, like, nobody wants to see that crap anymore. Like, so it's time to move on. Like I said, these guys, these old bastards, are stuck in the days of yesteryear where you could get away with that and say these things and behave this way, and it's not flying anymore. Like it's they need to adjust and change and get some sense in their minds. Not but or they're going to get criticized like this, regardless if it's
Sure.
in the wrestling scene or wherever he's talking about.
Yep. That is.
That was a tangent.
Yeah.
So Zach and
Right.
Brian, what a great match, match of the year.
What a great match it was. So we got that sorted. We have now for the next award, Dylan, the Kawada and Taue Best Tag Team.
That's right, Strig. This is another highly contested vote. But in the end, it came through as I thought it was going to go. But I liked how competitive it got by the end. So in third place, we got Team No Hug from Dragon Gate, Naruki Doi, Dragon Kid. Were the Twin Gate champions for the second half of the year. You got Baba Momo Banana, Mio Momono, and Yurika Oka there, which definitely deserves to be the best named tag team,
Yes.
I would say. And then, of course, the winner. It wasn't a blowout, but they did pull away and got a good win in the end. Jun and Ray, the Saito brothers, take home the Kawada Taue Tag Team of the Year awards. And what a win it was for them. What a year it was. I will say this. I think this is another one where, as I kind of said at the start, where it's kind of a free form award. You can kind of vote for what you value the most as a fan. Because I think I would put all three of the top three as my top three, ultimately. But I would pick Baba Momo Banana as my number one, only because with the Saitos, if you judge this as like an MVP type of award, then they should win because they meant so much to all Japan as a draw and celebrity of that. If you just look at their output and their wrestling, I think Oka and Momono had the better year. I thought they were better wrestlers than the Saitos as a tag team. Like if you want to throw it, even as singles, like Momono is still the best of the four, I would say pretty clearly. But as a tag team, I think their matches were better than the Saitos.
Mm-hmm.
But if you add in all the other stuff, then the Saitos should win. So it kind of depends on how you want. And we didn't set a guideline for that.
We did not. So I really enjoyed the Mio Momono and Yurika Oka matches that I saw this year. I thought they were great. So I think they deserve the position that they are in. And I actually have the same position that the listeners have in number 2 for them. I also have Team No Hug on number 3. I think they had a great twin gate run, and their story was just so funny. It was just so, just a little Easter egg that they always did at the end of the shows with the No Hug. Saito brothers, like you said, they're incredibly important for the company. I didn't have the feeling that the tag matches that they had were actually that great in comparison to the team that I will mention as my number 1 team.
Okay, going outside the box. I like this.
I'm going outside the box. I mean, they were champions for a long time this year, and they had good matches for the tag title. But the team that I liked much more this year, also from All Japan Pro Wrestling, is Yuma Anzai and Rising Hayato. I think they very quickly developed some incredible chemistry, and they very quickly also developed these little seeds that they saw for eventual dissension while they still are teaming with one another. And it's one of the things that I called out, that I can see these two having the Champion Carnival final next year. Even though it only lasted about 100 days, I thought that their All Asia tag title run, Oh, it's still but it's still going on actually. Like it's still
Yeah, they won
going
that
on.
match. You were
They won
there.
that match. I was there. Yes. It's still it has only been 100 days. It's been a great run, I thought. They won the title from Musashi and Seki Yoshioka, which was a great match, great pairing too, and they made sure to have great pairings. They twice defended against Miyahara and Ryo Inoue, and twice the match ruled. The one on December 31st ruled even more than the first one did. So Rising Hayato and Yuma Anzai from the get-go was a special pairing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they're great. Like they're a really good team. Anzai, I think, is like a next level player, pretty much. You know, when he's on the team, it's automatically a contender for tag team of the year because he started off the year with Honda as his partner, and they had their thing going there. They obviously had him with the Triple Crown run, and after that ended, they paired him with Hayato instead, which I think was a good call ultimately. I do have to say. So I think that they're a really great tag team. I just think the longevity of it and the fact that I think of them more for their single success as much as the tag run, I think can kind of why they didn't get that much more support overall. But they're a really, really good team, like in terms of quality. I just think they need more time, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, definitely. But that actually, well, the Cytos ran away with it anyways, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a competitive thing. You know, like this whole awards, there were a bunch that kind of like went to that. You know, they were challenging for the top three, like you know, FCC, Daisy Monkey, Team 200 kilograms, Wingori were all there. And it's something to notice that like a lot of the best teams were from the Joshi ranks this year.
Right.
I would highly recommend because Oka and Momono had a great series with Team 200 kg. Like this year, they had like 4 or 5 matches. They were all great, well worth watching from 2024 across multiple feds too. So definitely check them out. Obviously, mainly in Sendai, which is you know Seahash's home company. Wingori grew a lot as a team as well. I think Hanan's a lot better in the tag role than as the singles. And yeah, you know, I think it's interesting that the astronauts were so far down. Usually they're always up there.
Yeah.
But I think those days are over, especially now with Nomura
so
leaving Big Japan. And they're a great team. We'll see if now that Nomura's out, Big Japan, what are they going to do as a team? Hopefully it leads to more things and they can figure something out to get them together.
Dylan, imagine this. Imagine Takuya Nomura comes into All Japan Pro Wrestling once again, and they do the All Asia tag match, Yuma Anzai, Rising Hayato against the astronauts.
It seems like a perfect pairing on paper too.
It does, yeah. It's let's do that.
Yeah,
and it's also interesting here that New Japan tag teams are at the very bottom of the votes. With Catch 22, Gabe Kidd and Jake Lee. I don't know who even voted for those.
Two different people voted, not just one person.
And the Ichiban Sweet Boys. So yeah, New Japan Tag League in the dust, like they always are.
In the mud.
Mud.
The thing is, tag wrestling in general, the men I think was really down this year. Like even though, like I said, the Saito brothers, yes, they're very popular and fun. Name me your top 5 Saito brothers matches.
Yeah, that's the thing.
you know, like that's the thing. The matches aren't there with them, and I like them. Don't get me wrong, but I think their singles runs were more interesting. Like not necessarily higher quality because they're a good tag team. Don't get me wrong, but I think that was more interesting to people to see them as single stars, and I think that played a lot into it overall. And they were put again another one. They went undefeated in the Real World Tag League, the first team ever to do that.
Yes,
at the end of the
that's
day.
Played a big role, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, and they're stars.
Like you said, as an MVP candidate, tag team MVP, there is no question that they are that.
Yeah, so I really can't argue with this pick, to be honest, because if you judge it by that, like they are the stars, like of tag team, and they're a real tag team. Like with all due respect to Anzai and Hayato, that's 2 singles guys coming together to form a tag team. Like nobody, like people are going to remember the Triple Crown run more than this All Asia run, no matter how great it is. The Saito brothers are a real team, and like they're a rare. And name me, like all of these teams in a lot of ways are 2 singles guys coming together. Even like Catch 22, for example. Like they have grown into a great team, but they were renowned singles guys before that, already. And Gabe Kid Jake, same thing, like two singles guys coming together. You know, a lot of these teams have singles runs. Even Team 200 KG, as much as I love them as teammates, people are going to look at Seahosh as a single star as first too. So I think that the whole scene, and I think the Joshi scene is much better than the men's scene, in my opinion, at this. But I think nearly every company needs to really work on creating organic tag teams of the Saito brothers caliber. They might not be as big as stars as they are, or even as good as they are, maybe. But I think that no company really has a true. Who's the best tag team in Noah that's a true tag team?
In Noah,
They don't have any.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So every company has struggled with this, in my opinion, and I think that they need to work on it. But I'm happy that the Joshi scene has done a much better job, in my opinion. I think that's another reason why I'd pick Oka. But in general, though, like if you judge it as the MVP style, then the Saito should win. Like, so I really can't argue with this ultimately.
Yeah, going from the best tag team now to the Yushin Thunder Liger best junior heavyweight. And looking at the listeners' votes, we have Yamato as the Open the Dream Gate champion on number 6. That's always something that I don't really consider putting the top champion of Dragon Gate into that category, but it's fitting, of course, from the weight when you look at it. Dragon Dyer comes in at number 2. I remember that we were really down on his run in the Best of Super Junior, and it wasn't good.
Yeah.
The run itself was not good, and he didn't win any matches. So I'm still uncertain how that run overall has to be reviewed. What do you think about that?
Even his Brave Gate run wasn't that spectacular.
Yeah.
I think the best. It's a little bit of recency bias because they finally unlocked what we all thought was in him all along, or a lot of us thought was in him all along, especially me, but I know others did too. When they got him versus Yamato at the end of the year, that match was so great that I think a lot of people really were like, yeah, this guy is like he is one of the best guys Dragon Gate has. Dylan wasn't crazy when he was saying this when he was in those meaningless second match on the show tags like for all these years. But yeah, like I think that's really what did it. It's a lot of recency bias for that match and the story that built up to it as well. Because I think if you look at his year overall, I agree with you, man. Like it's not that great as a singles run. Like I said, even the Brave Gate run, the match with Tanaka was good, but I wouldn't say he really splashed, if that makes sense. The way the winner, like the number one person, I would say did.
The number one winner is Doki. And he is also my number one.
Fine as well.
Yeah, I don't think there is any argument to be made. The guy became the dude in the junior division, obviously also with El Desperado being out, but he made it work. He became junior champion as an underdog, but managed to have a very good run with it and managed to also build up the title matches with his opponents very well. So, and yeah, and we've been there on the last show. When you look at where he came from and where he is now, the development was there. He was very good to begin with as a wrestler, but even improved in his position. There's nothing bad I can say about Doki.
Not only did he do a great job, they did a great job with his run. They continually told stories with him and set up opponents to tell a continual storyline throughout his entire title reign.
Yeah,
he faced people like Kanemaru, Ishimori, like legends of the division. He had to go after, and they set it up perfectly for him to go after Despy, like when he who he won the title from originally, which was a shocking upset. Remember that was when they had
Oh yeah.
Desperado won the Best of Super Juniors, and that was this big emotional moment. And I remember they main evented with him against Show, and that match Show didn't do very good. And then a week later, it's like, okay, Doki's getting the belt now. And I thought that was a shocking, title change, but one that I highly approved of. And I was like, okay, now we get a fresh guy in here. Let's see what he can do. And they booked a great title reign for him. It wasn't just him being great, because we all know what a talented wrestler he is. But they actually put care and time into this title reign that they usually don't with a lot of their title reigns, to be perfectly honest. And I thought they did a great job. I loved the spot, even against Show, was a great piece of business. You got this unexpected Kishin Doki side.
Right.
Which was great. They told great stories, and it's unfortunate what happened at the Dome, but even then, I think that he'll bounce back from that. I think when he comes back, he is established as one of the stars of the division, and I think he deserves a ton of credit for being just a tremendous talent.
Absolutely. My number 3, at the half-year point, I had Robbie Eagles on number 2. I feel like that the second half of the year, also going into the Tokyo Dome show, was more of Robbie Eagles helping out Kosei Fujita to become more of a well-polished wrestler. Mm-hmm. And Kosei Fujita in the tag team with the Eagles managed to shine a lot. And that is why I have Kosei Fujita on my number 3. Also got some votes from the listeners. He vastly improved in his role in TMDK. Always been good, but now he has these sharp edges that made him stand out. That
he's kind of like a combination between Eagles if he combined with Rising Hayato as a wrestler.
Yeah.
Such a sleazy look to him, but he's actually this great in-ring guy, as well.
He actually is, and if we still had most underrated, I would probably also call him out here. My number 2 pick for the best junior heavyweight. I think sometimes he's overlooked, but that may also be due to his height. He's very small, tiny guy, but very good in ring. And we just saw it a couple of times at the beginning of this year, but also in multiple different roles in 2024. My number 2 best junior heavyweight in all of Japan is Rita. I love that dude. Takuya Hayakawa. I think he's one of the best wrestlers in ring that Dragon Gate has. And slowly but surely, he has made them put him into meaningful roles. He was a dude that was considered to be nothing more than a mascot for a long time, but he is just too good to be just that. And he broke the mold. And sometimes it's hard in Dragon Gate to break the mold when they slot you for a role. Usually you're slotted in that role for life. But he broke that mold and developed into a very respected guy on the roster.
You took the words right out of my mouth. He was my number 2 as well. I thought that he's one of the best. I remember I said it on the Dream Dragons when we were talking about the Young Dragon League, and I said he was the best guy in it, and everyone was shocked when I said that. But he's on a team with Ben K and Mochizuki Jr., 2 guys who are awesome. And he's the standout in almost all of their matches. That shows you, he is the one that, and like you said, the difference between him and why I would rate his year over Junior's, as great as he's been, is that Junior is the one that is he's going to be the guy eventually, or up there, like a main event player. He's already determined to be that. They already know he's got what it takes. Rita was chosen, like you said, to be the mascot. He wasn't even a real wrestler for a lot of his run. He had to fight his way to get even into the spot that he's in right now. And he's just such an amazing talent. He's one of my favorite guys to watch. He's a guy that always pops off the screen to me. So many GIFs you've seen put online of his moves. And he even makes basic moves look more spectacular just by him doing just a simple Hurricane Rana. He can turn into something special. So I think he's freaking great. I think he's right up there. If he were to get some more opportunities, he might very well be the top guy.
He might be. He might really be. Glad that we are here in line with with our love for Rita.
I had a little bit of a tangent I wanted to go on with this award, and you actually already kind of alluded to it so far, because almost every vote for Yamato that we got was accompanied by some version of "if he counts" as the junior heavyweight. Now, the usual rule I have on this is if someone is categorized as a heavyweight in other companies, then that is a heavy. Like if it's a DDT or Dragon Gate guy, if they're categorized as a heavyweight in other companies, then they should be a heavyweight. For example, Yoshioka, like Yuki Yoshioka. He was in the N1.
Yeah.
He's always been positioned as a heavyweight. He's a heavyweight. But Yamato and Ueno, who also got votes here, were positioned as juniors constantly whenever they go to other companies. So I think it's very telling that purely because of the fact that these guys are main event players, that eliminates them from being juniors to a lot of people. Because Yamato is the top champion, that eliminates him. And it shows, I think, a mental block we all have that juniors cannot be main eventers in our head. Like, juniors means mid-card players.
Right.
Like, you can't be the top junior and a junior. Like, and it shows, but the thing is, it's not the fans' fault. It's the company's fault for booking things how they have and making this way, where you should have a player like a Desperado or a Hiromu able to main event Dome, but
and that actually is one of the key reasons why a company like Dragon Gate exists in the first place. Because guys like Dragon Kid in their early days were not considered to be pro wrestlers because they were too small.
They wanted to make him the referee when he came in.
Yeah.
And what a shame that would have been.
One of the reasons that this company exists is because these wrestlers couldn't make a proper living anywhere else and couldn't be what they thought they could be and what they can be.
Yeah, because they can be.
Yamato wouldn't be a top guy in any company except for Dragon Gate. And it's not because he's not great. It's just because he's not a heavyweight and not that tall.
And the fact that he is a main event player makes the fans subconsciously think of him as a heavyweight, even though he's not actually a heavyweight.
He's not. No.
Yeah. Like no company books him as a heavyweight, but because he's the champion, people don't want to vote for him for that, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah. And I said it myself, too, that the bias is there.
Yeah. And again, I blame the companies for it more than the fans. Like, I think that the companies, if they were able to position things, and it used to be this way. I remember when we're dating ourselves further and further as time goes along here. But when I first started watching Japanese wrestling string, I'll see if you remember this or not. One of my absolute, and to this day, it's still one of my absolute favorites. One of my absolute favorite things that I saw, I got to follow the whole way through because I jumped in a little bit later. But one of my big things is I wanted to catch up on the G1s at the time. Yeah, we're talking 05, 06, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Up to 08 is about when I started.
I know where you're going, of course, yes.
Yeah. And one of my favorite stories was when Kanemoto was in the G1 2006. And they told this amazing story where he was still a junior, but was fighting his way into the semifinals. And that led to him getting a world title shot against Tanahashi afterwards. He didn't win the tournament, but they told an amazing story. With those guys from that era, Otani is another one that was a junior that became a top star. And he moved to heavyweight later anyway. But like that pathway is not there, it seems like, anymore, for not just the and I think the fans have determined that too. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, actually, because now these promoters can say, oh, well, we can't push so and so, the fans think he's a junior. Like, but you are the one who made it so he's not a main eventer. Yeah, exactly. Or you made it so a junior can't be a main eventer.
Yeah
So I just thought that was an interesting, like, mental bias that I think some people have. I try to avoid that as much as possible, but I think that we're all susceptible to it. And that's why I'm so hard on, like, if there's a star player in New Japan, I think it's better for them to move up to heavyweight than stay as a junior and try to fight that bias, because I think that inevitably there. Overall.
It definitely is. It is, yeah.
And they would have to, maybe with this United Japan, this is talk about. They get together and say, look, we have to upgrade the juniors in our leagues here, so they could be main eventers, on their own, and they could be seen. Maybe not like they could, maybe a junior can't beat Okada or whoever, like the top star is at the time, but their match can be as important as a heavyweight match. Just look at it boxing with Inoue, the top star of boxing almost anywhere in Japan, and he could sell out the dome. like his weight never held him back from being a star.
Yeah.
Why does that only happen in wrestling and not real?
I don't know. I have no idea how that works. It's even it's the same in MMA. There is no rule that you can't have a bantamweight headline a show.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why does this rule seemingly only apply to wrestling?
I don't know.
Yeah, so I think it's just something worth. When I saw the votes, that's something that stood out because it kept happening. Like, where somebody was like, I don't know if I can vote for Yamato. Yes, you can vote for Yamato. He is a junior, sure. I promise. Overall. But I'm not mad at the listeners at all. But I just thought it was interesting that everybody seemed to have the same thing on their mind there. And I think Ueno suffered from that too. I think he deserved to be up there.
Good transition on your part, Dylan, actually, because we are going to the Hiroshi Tanahashi Best Wrestler Trophy, Dylan. And Yuki Ueno was a guy that played a role in the half-year awards. We'll see how he did in the...
Yeah, he got no votes. Yeah.
Okay, I will add one. For my third place, actually.
Okay, well, that's not a winner. That's not a real vote. You're trying to skeet people in here. But who we got here? It was a three-way tie for third place here. We had Mayu Iwatani, Yuma Anzai, and Kaito Kiyomiya all tied for third. Zack Sabre Jr. came in second. And then a pretty big gap happened for the winner. Because, again, another thing I'm very proud of with the listeners, there was no bias on gender in our awards because Sari takes the crown pretty easily for Tanahashi Trophy. A big win for her. And again, not a lot of people got a lot of votes for Tanahashi Trophy. It was a very one-sided affair, but you had a couple pockets here and there, but Sari was the winner.
What do you think about that?
I think it was totally the right call by the fans. I 100% agree. Just look at the best bout matches. Half of the matches were her, like in them. There, almost all of the top five was. So she should definitely be up there. For me, I think that Iwatani was a good pick as well. Just in terms of consistency, I think her wrestling was at the next level. I think among the men, if I had to pick a number two, I would say Anzai. He was the best big match wrestler, I would say, and the most variety as well, because we just talked about his great tag matches.
Exactly.
But he also had the amazing singles run too. So that would be my three. I would have Sari 1, Anzai 2, and Mayu 3.
Okay, so I still want to give Yuki Ueno the shout out because he had an amazing first half of the year, and even in the second half of the year, he did have the match against Shinya Aoki. That was very good.
A fantastic match. Yeah.
Yes, he transitioned more into tag team and multi-man matches, but all of them also were really good. And then at the end of the year, he had the very good match with Takeshi Masada as well. So he had a great year in ring. I also have Sari and Yuma Anzai on my number one and number two, and I wanted to give Yuma Anzai an award, another award, because we will definitely talk about Sari more at the end of the show here. And what you said is so true that both in the singles and in the tag team capacity, Yuma Anzai had an amazing run. Sari obviously had an amazing run as well in 2024. Outstanding performances in a lot of ways. For now, for this trophy, I'll give a slight edge to Yuma Anzai.
He's great. Like I think that he's somebody that deserves a ton of credit. Just watching him, he's such a captivating wrestler, in my opinion. I think he's the best of the men's class this year.
Absolutely. Let's look at some other votes.
What do you think about Kaito?
Kaito had a very good run in the N1.
Yeah.
Also had a very good title defense against Sugiura.
That was good, yeah.
Um, Other than that, I can't recall anything great that he did actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I really can't add anything more.
Yeah. Takeshita,
Such a short run. His quality level is up there.
Quality is very high. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shinya Aoki, like you said, had a very brief run as a very earnest wrestler in the DDT. Yamato. All of his matches, all of the title matches were very good, actually.
Yeah. The Kenta one was a little bit of a letdown. But,
that's true.
Yeah, but still, that wasn't really his fault. I would say, like, if you look at his matches with Daya, Ishin, and Benkei, like, they all ruled. So, and even the match with Minoru was a great match, the hair match.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can see that.
And he had a lot of quality in tags earlier in the year in that Minoru feud leading up to the hair match too. So, I have no problem with that actually.
Chiro Hashimoto, always a great call.
Absolutely. Her and Miyu have like very similar cases, like the representative of their company, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think Hashimoto, I would pick her. Purely in ring, I would pick Seahash.
I think about we had a vote for Himawari.
So listen, I said it last week. TJP fans, there's a subsect that they love them, and they just like DDT, they service their fan base. If you're not in it, maybe this voter saw something we didn't see. That's all I can say.
I mean, she's very good.
Yeah, she's good. I'm not hating at all.
Yeah.
We got to vote for Dan. Dan Award 2024. Yeah.
Love the dedication, though.
Kento.
I mean, it's not been his best year.
That's the thing. It's like his standards are so high.
Yeah.
But I mean, he willingly took a step back. Like, it's not like
sure.
He was putting these big matches and he sucked.
But even though if they willingly take a step back, that's still taking a step back. Yeah.
His match versus Anzai was great. I will say that, and the tag match at the end was fantastic as well. But besides that, he wasn't somebody I really would have picked.
No.
And then Mochi and Rita both got a singular vote. I said it earlier. I think I would pick Rita's. I think he stood up more. But on the other hand, Mochi did have the great match with his dad, the singles match, which is probably the best singles match either of these two had.
Right. So Dylan,
yeah, they're both great. Yeah.
You've said it before. Best moment, we had a bunch of different votes, and you went through all of them, and we have a winner, a very clear winner, but we have so many different votes for moment of the year.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing some kind of Twitter thread for these at Best Bout as well. Just to showcase everyone that got a vote. I think they all deserve it. Like, because there was not a single vote here. I mean, there was a couple that didn't grab me as much as others, but there wasn't a single vote here that I could argue against and say wasn't a great moment in some way. So in terms of ones that at least got more than one vote, we'll put a thread up with the ones that got less, or we'll talk a little bit more if you would like as well, if you had any you wanted to shout out. But for the ones that got more than one vote, first up, Homare debut and turn. Was great. Like I said, like there's no argument to be had. It was one of those that was like, it was like, compared to the winner, it wasn't like this emotional moment. It was just like, like this is.
It's grabbing us. It's grabbing us once again.
Absolutely. Stalker's retirement match versus Tanahashi, and all of that was very fun. And he's a guy that I have a ton of history watching, so that was cool for me. Okada last New Japan appearance. This one didn't really grab me as a great moment, like him walking past Okada. But if you love Okada, this is the last time you'll probably see him. You can never say never in wrestling, but for at least the near future, he probably won't be back at the end of the day.
I didn't consider that as a great moment actually either. It made everybody else involved look so bad.
And he was out. Like he was like totally done with all this.
He was checked out. Yeah, he was completely checked out.
Yeah, ready to go. I've got to get to AEW and those big paychecks they're giving me. Yep. And Okan, you just stand there holding your belt. Odds-on winning the Triple Crown, I also didn't think was. The thing is, him winning is cool, but how it happened was so messed up because of Nakajima and his selfishness.
Yeah, the moment itself and the match itself completely sucked.
Yeah, but he's so great that he made it better than that. Like in hindsight, history will smile on it because he was such a fantastic champion. But the actual match and moment wasn't. The moment should have been a lot bigger, in my opinion. It's just thankfully he's so great that he made it big. Ibushi returns to DDT. Well, we won't see that anymore. They cut it off.
Yeah, that's not a great moment in hindsight.
At the time, though, people were very emotional about that.
Yeah,
right? DDT fans. It was kind of like last year. One of the big moments was Kaito kicking Okada, and I said that shouldn't be counting as a great moment because it led to something absolutely disastrous for his career. But if you just take it purely as that singular moment and don't count anything else, then I guess you could say it was. Io Sky's Marigold announcement, that was a great moment in my opinion. Like Utami's show of emotion.
Yeah.
That was up there for the half year awards too. I like that a lot. That was cool. I didn't love that match as much as some people, but I thought the moment itself was very good. Zack wins the IWGP title. If you're a fan of his, then this is it for you. So I have no surprise that this wasn't up there.
Yes.
Just a fan favorite, longtime guy winning the title was great. Sonata saving Naito after the post Wrestle Kingdom. That was one of the best, in my opinion. Like a pure storyline moment. That did so much for Sonata that has been completely erased with his heel turn, ultimately. But at the time, that was a really good deal. Like him saving Naito and him involving Sonata in the roll call at the end. Yeah. Again, this is a story that did not grab me at all, him doing the roll call, but I thought the way they did it was excellent and made Sonata look super heroic. Zack wins the G1. What do you think of Zack winning the G1 getting more than the IWGP win?
It says a lot, I think, about what the level of champion is.
Well, and just look at the match quality that he had between Tsuji and Naito. Which one was better?
Yep. Absolutely.
The winner was also my pick for number one. Takayama coming out at Takia Mania and getting challenged to a match versus Suzuki. Everybody was there. That was one of those that was like, to me, it was untouchable. Like this was easily my number one pick.
Absolutely untouchable.
Yeah. And it was amazing.
And I want to add to that, what is also, in my opinion, pretty untouchable is the Fujita Juna Hayato appearance at the Rumble.
That was my number two as well.
Yeah, at the Wrestle Kingdom 2024 show. Very in line with Takayama's appearance, just a real emotional moment that is not created within a storyline. That was just heartwarming to see.
Yeah.
And it didn't only, like I said, it didn't only feel very real because you knew it was real.
I think those kind of moments are always going to stick with us more than storylines or anything like that. Not that they can't be great too, but that, like you said, that was real.
And then there are these moments that are created within the storyline or within the development on the show. And number 3 for me was the Homare debut in Dragon Gate.
Yeah, that got some votes.
And I also want to include Jay on commentary for that incredible call, like that.
Yeah.
Homare has disappointed a record number of people in record time or something like that, what he said. It was just an incredible call as well. Yeah, that debut was so great that DDT practically copied it with that Sakuraba dude that debuted immediately turned to Damnation.
That didn't have the impact as Homare's. But it was good, though.
I want to give a sweet shout out to Hiroki Goto winning and his kids seeing their dad win in the G1 Climax.
That was great. That's why I thought it was one of the best bouts.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was cool.
That was great overall. There were a lot of great moments. As I said, a lot of them are just and it makes you remember why, like, okay, well, this is why we love this, is all of these things that happened. And that Fujita Junior Hayato Rambo appearance was like really cool. I remember when he wrestled in New Japan when they had the Super J-Cap 09, and he's coming out to Hard Rock Hallelujah, like coming in there. Him and Kanemoto had an incredible match. he was doing great stuff with everybody like that back then, and to see him make his return all these years later, when New Japan had such a better spot than it was then, it was beautiful to see him make his return. And I hope that we also had to mention where he got named the commissioner of Impro.
Right.
That was in
Yes.
July, I think. Hopefully we can see him continue to be there in this thing that he loves so much, and I totally understand it. And I hope that he can find some happiness and peace in this world of wrestling.
Absolutely. Yep. That concludes the best moment, I think. And we only have two more awards left. The two major awards that we have. First off, Dylan, it's the Manami Toyota Joshi MVP. And, well,
There was one person that got a lot of votes.
very similar to the Tanahashi Best in-Ring trophy, but even more dominant this time. Sari ran away with it, and I don't think there is any dispute with that, really.
No, like not at all.
There were multiple companies this year where she main evented. There were last year, there are multiple companies where she won titles. There are multiple companies where she headlined. She had headlined her own shows that were very successful. She wrestled for both Stardom and Marigold in 2024, successful both companies. That is the resume, man. That is the resume of an absolutely great MVP.
Like the best in-ring performer, the most important to her company, the most important to her scene, and booked her own shows as well. So it's like she did everything.
Yeah, she did it all.
And kind of like I said with the award of taking somebody out, if she's outside of Marigold, that company is like in a really rough spot. And we may be seeing what that looks like.
We are already seeing in what rougher spot they are right now.
Exactly. Like you can see how much she meant to that company. We only had 5 people with more than 1 vote. Sorry, ate up a lot of votes. You had Mayu as the second place vote getter, Mayu Iwatani. Miyu Watanabe was third in Tokyo Joshi Pro, of course. Micah fourth. We had the Micah shooters coming through here, trying to get her into this top 5. And then Tom Nakano did get a couple of votes as well. So that shows you how, like I said, Sorry just ate up everything, and the rest were just trying to fight their way through it. But did you have anybody else that you thought really, I don't think anybody was even close.
No, I don't have anyone else. I have Miyu Watanabe on number 2 and Mayu Iwatani on number 3. And, with Micah, Tam, and Mayu all mentioned here, I want to bring up and talk about that. I actually wanted to bring up with promotion of the year. Because, yes, Mayu Iwatani is very vital to Stardom. But she might actually be the only one that is actually that vital to Stardom, because when you take Stardom, they have so much great talent.
Exactly.
That I don't really think that either Tam Nakano or Micah really make that much of a difference.
That was my argument last year against Julia when she won.
I know.
Is that there were so many people there that you could argue were important to the company, and I think that's less true this year because some people left, but it's still kind of true. Ultimately, like all of these people like critics too. Like Micah and Tom is the red belt champion. People were saying Micah's run wasn't that great, and because the thing with her is that she was in a really rough time. That was when Okada was first starting to book, and she had to kind of overcome a lot of that. Tom, I just thought that was one of the messier stories they told, and it wasn't that great, in my opinion. I have to say, even though I like her as a wrestler, I like both of them a lot as wrestlers, like Micah, Tom, even Mayu. I don't think she was super vital to the company itself with this IWGP run. She's kind of in that mid-tour, like veteran role, but she still has amazing matches in terms of in-ring. She's the most vital one, I would say. I think
still
she's
funny what the title is now. I mean, it was in Wrestle Kingdom, but
yeah, it's not any different than it was before. And it will not be any better than it was before, I don't think, regardless of who has the title. Yeah, the other ones were all like company MVPs. Seahash.
Yes.
Yeah, Ozaki, Hanako. I like Hanako Nakamura getting the shout out. Like Pure J respect to her, like heavily in effect. right here. And she does deserve a lot of credit. Much like Akari, they are helping keep that company afloat. Mirai, I don't really get it. Like I said, I don't think her run was that good at all.
I mean, if we're talking about Mirai, then I want to mention another one. What do you think about Mika Iwata in Sendai Girls?
I mean, the thing is, a great wrestler who they just book to lose all the time.
Yeah.
Like look at her run with Ano.
That's right.
But I mean, she did at least get some good publicity being on the Stardom shows. But
yeah, she won. She won the title. She won the Wonder title, and she also won the Stardom, the Sendai Girls title. But if we're talking about Mirai in this category, you might as well talk about her.
Well, Iwata was somebody they wanted to push that nobody wanted to put over. So like of importance.
Yeah.
And that's why that it ended that way. Mirai is somebody that like outside of Ano, like because Ano did put her over, to be fair. But Mirai wasn't even that pushed. Like I said, I wasn't a fan of this team with Sakurai. Like, I'm sorry, people. Like I don't know how to say it otherwise. In ring wise, I still think she's very good. Like of everybody in that company, I think she's probably the second best person besides Sari in there. But in terms of her actual star power or importance, I mean, she just went with a draw on somebody with their literal first match.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells me what they think of her.
She's not an MVP.
No, I don't agree with that at all. I do have to say. But the other ones I do agree with. They're vital to their companies, even though I don't think Ozaki's that great as a wrestler. The other two I do.
But she is very vital to her company. That is absolutely true.
She is valuable to her company. Absolutely.
There's no Oz Academy without her.
That's literally true. I think if I would say Mayu would be my 2, and I think my 3rd would be Sihash overall.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And Dylan, finally, the MVP overall. Please take the lead for the final category that we have.
I will do that, but first I want to give a little bit of a roundup to compare where we were at last year. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but compared to some of the awards, where we were at in 2023 to where we were at in 2024, okay? Mm-hmm. For Best Foreigner, we had Will Ospreay, dominant in his last year, which is kind of like a half year. They still voted for him anyway. Here.
That's right, yes.
And we got more Ospreay to come, I promise.
Sure.
Yeah, so, yeah, like I said, Ospreay was a dominant winner compared to Zach this year. Zach had more quantity this year, I would say, than Ospreay did. So I would say Zach would be my winner if you had to pair them off. Last year, Anzai, dominant rookie award winner, Akiyama. I mean, he's like a once-in-a-lifetime skill level, like rookie overall. So no surprise there. We did have Rest in Peace, most underrated. Hinare did get that at the end of the day. Most improved was Saito Brothers as a tag team, which, I mean, I think that was a good call in hindsight for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely good stuff there overall. Best promotion, All Japan won in a landslide. So we had a lot closer this year with DG and All Japan very close. But All Japan passing the torch to DG. Show of the year was a hotly contested battle between All-Star Grand Queendom and Muto's retirement show. Stardom actually won All-Star Grand Queendom, which was great. That was main evented by Julia and Tom Nakano, and we had Sandre on for a big review for it, and it was a great show. Muto, everybody remembers. 2 fantastic shows last year overall. Best bout was Ospreay and Omega from the Dome. I mentioned that earlier when we talked about it. Same thing, where it's like the boring vote, but it was the right one, in my opinion. Tag team, Astronauts won. That again, this is the break of their dominance in 2020.
It really is. They always got a lot of votes. This year is really different.
Yeah, exactly. So the torch got passed this year to the Saitos. Best Junior, Abe won that again. That's another one. He was always like a top player at it this year. Doki
he got some votes.
Yeah, he was still around. I mean, even Astronauts got a few. But it wasn't what it used to be. Someone also, I think the same person voted for Himawari as best Tanahashi trophy, best wrestler last year. So we will not stop you. I encourage you to vote every year. I want to see Himawari on this ballot, like next year as well. Please do that for me. I love it. That's awesome. Osprey won that. That's another Osprey award winner this year, last year. And best moment was Muto and Shono's post match after Muto's retirement match with Naito, which was a great moment, to be honest. Toyota Trophy, Julia got that. I mentioned that before. Sorry was number 2 last year, funnily enough. Julia, obviously, at NXT. She's the NXT Women's Champion right now. So congratulations to her for that. But not eligible for our awards for that. And finally, our MVP last year, Kento. Kento won last year. Was the overall MVP. And now that leads us to this year's votes. For the Kenta Kobashi MVP award winner, we had a tie for second here.
All right.
Sari and Kaito Kiyomiya both tied.
Okay. I want to stop you right there.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're making this because I think you will speak virtually through me as well because I have the same rant in my heart, but go on.
These two exist in completely different universes. Kaito Kiyomiya exists in a universe where he's consistently portrayed as the biggest geek possible while holding the championship for random reasons because there is nobody else, while Sari is the runaway MVP in her universe. What the hell?
It was one of those that really puzzled me, but we have to remember that Kaito won the half-year award for MVP.
I know.
I didn't agree with it then, and I really don't agree with it now. If he had won, I think I would have been more upset about it. Like, if he had won again, I'd have been like, okay, come on now. like that isn't fair. If that happened. Like, what? The thing is, Stringer, are we the problem? What are we missing that other people are seeing?
We may very well be the problem. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, what are we missing that makes him so great? Because I didn't think he even had that great of a year in general. Like, he had a few good matches that were really strong.
Yeah,
but not an MVP. Like, so is it our fault? Like, are we missing something?
The thing is, Dylan, if you really think about it, when you take Kaito Kiyomiya out of Pro Wrestling Noah, there are very few that come to mind that could actually hold the heavyweight championship. But that doesn't mean at the same time that they value Kaito Kiyomiya as one of the few guys.
Or that he was successful.
Exactly. And that is the complete paradox of his existence within Pro Wrestling Noah.
How did he get more votes than Anzai? Like, that's the real crime of this.
I have no idea. Because if you take Anzai out of All Japan Pro Wrestling doesn't get so many votes for Promotion of the Year.
I think if he had stayed champion all year, they would have won the award.
I guess so, yeah.
Like I said, I think they dropped off when he lost the belt considerably. And we still like what he's doing in the tag team, don't get me wrong. But you can't tell me the company was as hot as it was when Aoyagi and Davey Boy were champions.
No.
Like, let's just be real about this. He put that company on his back, and on top of it, he put it on his back at a time when it was in disarray. When Nakajima decided to lose his fucking mind, and they had to.
We are not talking about a talent like Kento Miyahara who has been there and done that multiple times. We're talking about a talent in his first run on top that took the company on his back in a time of disarray.
He was a few months away from being categorized as a rookie in this very awards. Here. Yeah, that was mind-boggling. Like,
he is where Kento was in his first run.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a wonderful comparison. He's the absolute greatest torch bearer that Kento could pass it to, and that's wonderful. And he really deserved. To me, he should have won. Like, I voted for him as my number one, in my opinion. I don't think it meant more. Nobody meant more to their company than he did. That was also successful in what he did. Like, there's no flaws in his game. As when he was the champion, he was fantastic. When they needed him to take a step back, everything went down, and he was still fantastic in the role they put him in. And I think that's very rare. Sari would be my number two, and I think she deserved to win as well. I think she is a great, great player in the overall scene, and for all the reasons we mentioned for Joshi, she is way ahead of Kaito, in my opinion, since you brought that comparison up. And just a better, like, her match quality was better than Kaito's, in my opinion, like this year. And I think that, yeah, you know, Yamato got the win in the votes, and I don't hate it. Like, I'm not like running against it or saying that anybody's wrong for that pick.
Mhm.
I think that a lot of it is the difference between Anzai and Yamato. I think if the timing of their title reigns had been flipped, Anzai would
Yeah,
have won.
I can see that. So I considered that. I also named Yamato. I named him my number 3.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, him taking over the Dream Gate, him beating Kota Minura in the hair match, that also happened at the same time, basically at the same time. And it was a time in Dragon Gate where they were trying different things, and now he has been champion for half a year. And thinking about Dragon Gate right now without him on top is difficult, because this Bayside show once again showed it. He once again called all these guys into the ring, and they once again just stood there like geeks and listened to him talk. He's just the dude still in 2025.
Well, the thing is, another great point in his favor is that he had, much like Anzai, I don't think it was as drastic as Anzai's, but when he took over the belt, the Dreamgate title was kind of in the toilet, prestige-wise. Like, that Mate run
Yes,
was not
yes,
good. The Kakuta run before that was
not.
arguably even worse.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so, like, he saved that title from what it's been for almost a year now, or over a year at that point, and he brought it back to where it should be. So he deserves a lot of credit for that.
He
This
does.
is a good vote. In my opinion, I don't have any problem, but I'm like you. I'd put him either number 3 or number 2, depending on it. I it's close. I think he deserves a lot of credit
Yeah.
for it, you know?
Yuma Anzai is my number 2.
Yeah.
Had he been champion throughout the year, he'd be my number 1.
Yeah.
Surely, the title run was great. I've called out the Hideki Suzuki match as my favorite match from the run, but the Miyahara match was great as well. He was responsible for great numbers for All Japan Pro Wrestling. He's responsible for a great tag team with Rising Ayato, responsible for a great unit with Elpida, responsible for All Japan Pro Wrestling just being where they are right now. He is crucial to this company. But nobody, in my opinion, was as crucial to any company in Japan like Sari was. I will give her the MVP of the Joshi wrestlers, and I will give her the MVP overall for Japan, because wherever she went, she meant the most on any card. Plain and simple.
Yeah. The more I think about it, I think all 3 of the people we were mentioning right now, Sari, Anzai, and Yamato, all have really great cases. You know, I don't think there's really any bad votes between them all. I think Sari had to overcome less than the other 2, because again they were picking things up at a really negative point in their companies. But to be fair, Sari picked the belt up as the first ever champion, so that, like, she started at 0 and had to bring the title up, as well as all of the extra stuff, like you said, for the scene. Normally, I think this award goes against the idea of freelance people winning, but
Yes.
she was a Mari Gold wrestler. Like, she was on every Mari Gold big show.
Mostly, yes.
And
at the same time, it also shows that there is certain weaknesses in Japanese pro wrestling.
True.
When there is a freelancer like her being so high up in these votes.
I think if I had to, the thing is, I think Sari would be had the best in-ring year of the 3, to me. I mean, we voted for Tanahashi Trophy, and Anzai number 2. I think business-wise, the thing is, All Japan's more successful than any of the companies she wrestled for.
Right.
ultimately. Like if you want to make that claim, yes, she was important, but the scene as a whole is very down. Like right
Mhm.
now, what she could. I mean, it's not. I don't think anybody blames her for that at all. But it just is what it is. It's a factual statement. And I think all Japan is soaring to good heights despite all of the craziness that was started. To be fair to that, though, I think the Saito brothers also deserve a lot of credit for that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Anzai did not do it alone. Whereas Yamato, on the other hand, was really a direct, like we saw a direct improvement when he got it as well, more so than Anzai, who Nakajima, for all of his faults, was a successful champion for the time until he lost the belt and all of the stuff that happened. Yamato was coming off a very unsuccessful champion, and he made things better. So I think all three have different strengths that you could go with. It's close, but overall though, regardless of us, I think if I was forced to pick one, I think I would pick Anzai. Overall, I think his story as the champion grabbed me the most, and he was the most versatile. But I think Sari has a great case, and Yamato does too. I have no problem conceding that Yamato was the pick overall. He's a very deserving winner. And otherwise, I will say this: I brought it up on the half year show. I thought Ueno deserved the vote. I talked you into voting for Ueno
Yep.
at the half year awards.
At that point, he really deserved it.
And he did. He's like in terms of business, he made a direct impact, like more than anybody else, like on his company.
I also considered voting for Chris Brooks here because he is very vital to DDT as well, but he wasn't as vital as Yuki Ueno was in the first half.
No, it's nice that he got the belt back, and I think he's doing good things. But Ueno was a complete Brooks a couple of years ago when he won the title deserved that love because he did make a difference there too. But I thought Ueno made a greater jump. We made the comparisons on that half year show. Go back and listen to it, where almost every show was up from the year prior thanks to him as champion.
Yes.
However, when he lost the title, he's really faded into the background. Like I do have to say. Hopefully he can bounce back and they can get him to bounce back in 2025 because he had a great run as champion. I wouldn't vote for him overall now, but I do think he deserved props. I'm glad he got some votes at least. And we had Zach. I mean, a lot of people love him.
I was going to bring that up actually, Dylan. It's very telling that we don't have a New Japan wrestler in the top 3 and barely one in the top 5.
Yep.
Because New Japan usually is a company that is heavily dependent on their big star, but with Katsushika Okada leaving and their inability to create a big star before he left, there was a big void that couldn't be filled.
And another blown Naito title run that had to be interrupted with Moxley the first half of the year.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yes.
Like Naito should be up here in terms of pure star power,
and he was in the half year awards.
Yeah, he was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Like you're right, and look what came of it in the year-end awards. He's outside looking in now. Like he got 1 vote, the same amount of votes as Mirai, the true MVP according to some people. And listen, I've been a Mirai respector before anybody else.
Yes,
but
there is no way to just look at Marigold and think that she's an MVP.
That's a little far even for me. Kento got a few votes as well, like trying to defend his title from last year. I'm with you though. Like he's took a step back this year. Like I mean, I liked when he got the chance to step up, he did, but there's not enough there, not compared to Anzai. How could you do this to Anzai? People. Jun Kasai got a vote. He's a deathmatch legend.
Yeah, it's similar. He was similar to when you vote for Mayumi Ozaki, because the company is revolving around heavily on these people.
Yeah, and he was he was arguably the highlight of that Despy Invitational show.
Yeah,
his entrance.
You can argue he's much more vital outside of his own company than he is with Freedoms.
I got one person to bite on my shoe for MVP case I made on the preview show. I wouldn't vote for him, but I like my argument made. I think if you took him out of DG January 1st last year, that whole company is like so different and not for the better, in my opinion. But he didn't have, like I said, that would be an outside the box vote.
And it's a vote that is more on the meta level actually.
Exactly.
Because he is so he's the centerpiece of all these storylines without making it very obvious most of the times.
Or even being like having great success, like in ring, like like winning titles and stuff like that. He's just he's like his own title in his own mind that projects to the rest of the company somehow. So I liked it though. Iwatani liked. Goto, respect. I don't know if I agree with it, but I do respect it. At the end of the day, Suwama, this might be your last chance to vote for him, to be honest, as an MVP, like the way things are in All Japan.
Maybe we can vote for Suwama this year as the MVP of Evolution.
Well, that is not going to fly because Chi-Chi is there. So
Jesus, damn it. Poor Suwama.
Exactly. If we're voting for anybody from MVP, it's her, not him. But yeah, like I said, I'm looking at this cast of characters now compared to previous years, and I have to say, I don't think it's as strong like compared to our usual.
No.
Yeah. Like, and I liked a lot of these years. Again, I'm not criticizing any of these people. Even Kaito was the champion, and what you said earlier was true. If you take him out of Noah, then the people who like Noah may not like Noah anymore. Although I don't know if that's really happening with Ozawa as champion. It seems like things are actually going up without him as champion. But regardless, I get it, even if I don't agree really. But overall, though, like I said, I think the years prior, we've had stronger MVP runs.
Yeah.
This.
Let me ask you this. Let's make a projection for the half-year awards.
Yeah.
When do you think Osawa will rank in 6 months?
That's a great question. I think if we were doing our 1 month awards, he'd be pretty high. Like we've got a month of data with him as champion. I think he's been one of the more talked about positively in any company.
Yes.
So I mean, like 1 month in, we're good. But I mean, like I said, I don't know. Like I said, overall, like can they make that last for 6 months? This is Noah we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But I'm rooting for him. I think he's a breath of fresh air. I think the fans really like him. We both love him as an in-ring talent, and the character's really caught on. They're already showing some rocky sides with Omos giving up the title to Daga and having to go back. That 3-week run, what a run that was, though, Striga. 25 days. That's our Omos. We missed him. He was very over and very good.
He was over. It's so funny now. So he's so over. He's so over, and now the fans of Pro Wrestling Noah are just like, where's Omos?
Yeah, like he's gone back. Like so, we'll see. We'll see ya.
Wagner gone. Omos gone. What the fuck?
Yeah. They've still got some work to do, but
they do have Kaito.
Well, they have Endo right now.
They do have Endo. Yes.
Yeah, I've said it before. I really don't buy Kaito as that vital. Like, to be honest, like I think if he left, it wouldn't make that big of a difference. In all honesty, it would give us someone less to talk about. But I don't think he makes that big of a business difference, actually. And so Ozawa, I would put him in the lead right now, to be honest. But we still got 5 months to go, though, to be fair.
Right now, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go with anybody. Maybe what if Goto? If he does win this belt,
Dylan, is it happening?
I said it last time. I think this is the closest that we've come to it being possible. I wouldn't bet on it by any stretch of the imagination. But I think
2 weeks away.
I mean, for a narrative purpose, I think he should win.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, like personally. But I like how many times have they had the chance to do that? But to be fair, they've had 0 chances to do it when Okada and Naito and Tanahashi weren't in play for the belt. So like now they have a real chance over. Again, I would do it personally. And we'll see if it happens, and we'll talk about it either way. Like this year has a lot of interesting dominoes that are left to fall, I would say. Like overall, again, we talked about it. The MVP level wasn't as strong, but the Joshi level was really strong with Sari. We're seeing some good stuff overall. A lot of companies are building it to a good way going into the year. We just talked about it. You've brought up Gate of Bayside a ton today. And, but it was a good show, like a good setup for what's to come for DG as well. So we have a lot of good things to look forward to this year. And the half year awards will be very interesting to look back at, because I think we're at a really big. I mean, I kind of felt this way last year too, and it didn't really come to pass. But it does feel like we're at a changing of the guard point, like in Japan. New Japan's going to have to pull the trigger on one of these guys.
They finally have to. Yeah.
Noah already did it with Ozawa.
Mm-hmm.
Anzai's always in play. The Joshi scene is trying to come up a little bit. We even had that,
Dragon Gate will have to put one of those guys in charge now.
Well, that's true. Yeah, this whole story should be about putting a young guy over Yamato ultimately. I mean, the thing is with them, it's less clear on who that actually could be.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the big problem with this whole story at the start. Minoru was a babyface when they feuded originally. Like it's just the fans sided with Yamato over him, and like that's the problem when he's saying this stuff. It's hard because it kind of rings true.
It is true, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that may very well be the reason why they didn't bring Daya into the ring. Now that I'm thinking about it, because he should actually be the one.
It shows you how special that double title match was. That they finally saw it in him.
And Dylan, when he defeats Yamato, he could bring back the Brave Gate, because he was the one that basically quote unquote lost it.
That's true. Yeah, he could save the Brave Gate as well. You still got Yoshioka waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be interesting when he comes back. How they handle him. So I think that's a very exciting point too. You've got Brooks as champion in DDT. You think they're going to bring in Ueno again. Bring him back up to that main event scene. They've got a ton of young guys on their roster. So there's a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. And we will definitely be covering that all. And of course, when we get to the half year awards, it's going to be fun to look back. We may be coming back here in 6 months and saying, man, Marufuji's champion again. No.
That Osawa guy, he went to NXT in March. What a shame.
Even he went to NXT like in March.
Osawa WWE ID.
Like I said, well, he's got charisma at least. I mean, so far results are not promising for Inamura in NXT, but God bless him. Like I said, we'll see what he does. We'll see what Ozawa does as champion, and it should be a lot of fun overall.
And Dylan, this show was a lot of fun overall. I had a blast talking about the entirety of 2024 with you once again. Year-end awards is always a special show to us, to the listeners, to the voters, to everyone that is involved here. And I loved it.
As did I. Hopefully all you guys out there enjoyed it as well. Once again, we really and truly could not have done it without you. So thank you for voting. Hopefully everybody has some good fun watching some of the stuff we talked about. Again, I'll put a thread up of best bout nominees and best moment nominees and stuff like that. So everybody can kind of follow along and watch it and share in all of these good memories that we have of 2024 as we move forward in this new year of 2025.
Absolutely. So this has been the Eastern Lariat. We shut down the book for 2024. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Sayonara.